Hello, 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 everybody. How are we doing? This is great. This is great. We have so many atrocities to cover and atrocious developments, right? So, first things first. First order of business. Roll call. That's number one. All right. I want to make sure you're all present and accounted for. This helps boost the algorithm. You know the thing, man. Come on, we're not going to go through this every time. You already know what's up. So just comment that you're present. Even if you're watching this on replay, it doesn't matter. Everything's okay. Before we get to Cuba, because I know there's a lot of things happening with Cuba, we're going to look at an interesting story, right? So this is something that I've been planning to revisit, right? And we'll get into it shortly, right? So again, make sure you commented something and you've liked the live stream, because YouTube keeps us in a cave, so we're trying to combat that, right? The second order of business. We have a Telegram channel now, right? So basically, on Telegram, you would get a live stream notification because YouTube might not be giving you one, right? So Telegram is the way to go. The URL is in the description. It's very simple. It's t.me/Medhurst. That's it. And you'll get notifications for everything else. So, Taro has sent a super chat. Thank you very much. Taro says, Taro's present. There we go. See, that's what I'm talking about. If you want to be extra special, you can comment that you're here with a super chat. It helps keep the anti-imperialist machine going. You feel me? All right. So, let's get right down to business. Oh yeah, and just one more. We got one from Joel. It says, hello from occupied Blackfeet territory in Montana. That's great to have you tuning in. Thank you, Joel. I appreciate the support very, very much. Okay, so let's see what we can do over here with this atrocity, right? Let's see what we can do over here. Very good. So you might recall that PBS Frontline, right? They do a lot of documentaries. You might recall that they did an interview. They sat down and did an interview with al-Jolani. Okay, so al-Jolani, well, he has a long history, right? First, he's in Al-Qaeda. Then he's commanding al-Nusra, Jabhat al-Nusra, which is basically, Al-Qaeda in Syria, right? And then now he's the leader of HTS. So HTS is an abbreviation of, it's an acronym for Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, which is basically the jihadist rebranding of al-Nusra, right? So it's just basically one rebranding of Al-Qaeda to the next. And he's in charge of that now. And why is HTS so important? Well, they're in command of Idlib, right? So if you look at the map in Syria, Idlib is the last, as it's been called, right? It's the last terrorist stronghold left in Syria. And it's very important because we're talking about tens of thousands of fighters. It's nothing small, right? So now in 2021, and it's the situation has not changed that much in the last a year or so. I'm gonna just pull this up on the map for you so you can understand what we're talking about. Most of Syria has been taken back, right, by the Syrian army. So we're talking about all of this, right? Now, of course, you still have an American base at Al-Tanaf, an air base. Everything here in Hasake and Deir Zor, these regions up here in the northeast, they're still under U.S. occupation, and you have the Kurdish SDF, which is helping them. And then over here, we have Idlib. So Idlib city and Idlib province. And this is where you have a huge presence of HTS. And Mr. Jolani over here, right? This guy, he's in command. He's in charge. Now, PBS sat down and did a documentary with him, right? And it's very interesting for several reasons, because the way that they've talked to him, I mean, it's kind of funny. It's really, the only way I can break it down for you is if we take a look at the documentary, right? So first things first, it's just so hilarious that he's dressed up in a suit, because this guy has never worn a suit in his life, probably, right? He's always with the military slacks, and there you go. So let's get down to business. I really want to play a couple of clips for you and then break down what is happening in this documentary. Some things that you may not realize otherwise. Okay, so let's take a look. Let's take a look.
There are some people in Washington who think it may be wise to work with Giuliani, including a top American diplomat in the region during the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations, James Jeffrey.
Look, he's the least bad option of the various options on Idlib, which is one of the most important places in Syria, which is one of the most important places right now in the Middle East. When there is not the normal setup of nation states and of international norms and rules, you wind up with groups like this that do things you don't like, but in the here and now are the folks you have to deal with to avoid even worse things.
Wow. Wow. I mean, he just comes right at you. You heard what he said, right? So this is Special Envoy Jeffrey, right? So he was ambassador to Turkey for a while. As the narrator explains, he's been in the Bush, Obama, and Trump administrations, right? And he was a special envoy to Syria, right? And he's a U.S. ambassador is telling you that the least bad option is Al-Qaeda. Well, I mean, it's not surprising, right? They created Al-Qaeda. It's just this is astonishing to me because if an ambassador, dude, Al-Qaeda attacked the United States on 9/11, right? Giuliani himself, right? There's documentaries about Giuliani. He himself was killing Americans in Iraq, right? During the insurgency. You would expect Americans to be like, what the hell is going on? Why is one of our ambassadors, our top man in the Middle East, why is he endorsing this Al-Qaeda figure? And he's not just a fighter, he's a commander, right? He just said it straight to your face, right? So the United States thinks Al-Qaeda is better than having a secular, stable Syria under Bashar al-Assad. No surprise there, right? So when we tell you that the United States is funding jihadists, is funding terrorist groups, right-wing terrorist nut jobs in Syria, it's not a conspiracy theory. It's not about just Operation Timber Sycamore. No, he's sitting here and telling it to your face. He's telling it to your face. Let's continue.
Syria made clear that they were going to do everything in their power to make sure the United States failed.
This was central Baghdad today as Saddam Hussein's regime finally lost control. The fall of Baghdad.
Right? So he's talking about al-Giuliani's activities in Iraq back then, okay? They're giving you some background.
The U.S. military and the U.S. government were woefully unprepared to deal with the reality on the ground in Iraq.
That's what you get when you lose.
I cannot begin to describe the idiocy of this whole endeavor.
Okay, so this is where this guy is confusing me because he clearly says, well, you know, going into Iraq is idiocy, right? He just said, I cannot begin to describe the idiocy of this endeavor. And yet he thinks that supporting Al-Qaeda in Idlib in Syria is fine. Wow. Right? This is what's so great about American or Western politicians and also Western media. So the BBC, The Guardian, the Washington Post, the New York Times, they all do this, right? They all support the wars like Iraq. And then after it's too late, they're like, oh man, this was so stupid of us. You know, we should have like maybe been a bit more careful. Oh, like 1 million people died. Oops. Really? Now you've finally woken up. And in the same breath, he's telling you, no, but we totally got it this time. This time it's fine, right? So let's continue.
الأبرياء كنا ضده يعني لست وحدي أنا كان كثير من الناس التي يعني لديها ضمير ولديها وعي ولديها فهم صحيح للإسلام والدين كانت ضد قتل أي بريء حتى لو كان يريد أن يتسبب في قتل كم كبير من العدو وأن يقتل شخص واحد بريء نحن كنا ضده يعني لهذا الأمر.
Why didn't you quit then? I mean, why stay with an army whose major tactic is to do mass suicide bombings that inevitably or intentionally killed civilians?
يعني هو نحن كنا دائما نسأل.
Dude, I mean, I'm not even sure what to say to that. I'm not even sure what to say to that. He's just casually sitting there like a choir boy, you know, like we never meant to kill anyone. And, yeah, it was just like we didn't understand. It was just like we asked ourselves what's going on, but we weren't really on board with this. He sounds like one of those Nazis on trial after World War II. Like, I was just following orders. Right? So when he wants to, he can take up arms and kill innocent people. Because remember, what we're talking about here is not just resistance. We're talking about the fact that they were blowing up civilians, right? They were doing these suicide attacks. They were blowing up civilians. The majority of the casualties had literally nothing to do with who they're resisting. It's terrorism, right? And now he's like, well, man, I don't know. It's just like we kind of got caught up in the suit, right? He's wearing the suit as well.
Rise through the ranks of Zarqawi's organization and caught the attention of a CIA analyst.
I mean, my job was to identify some of the initial leaders of Zarqawi's organization and to keep track of who is in his network and who's helping make decisions.
Jilani came up as a commander or of some sort in Zarqawi's organization?
Yes.
Can you say anything about that?
Probably not. I mean, he wasn't top tier, but he had cell leadership at that point.
Aha. And now you need to start paying attention. Now you need to start paying attention. What did he say, the narrator? He said, Jilani caught the attention of a CIA analyst. And that's more than in just one way. Pay attention. Pay attention.
Around 2005, Jilani's jihadist career in Iraq was cut short. He was arrested by U.S. troops in Mosul. He would spend most of the next 5 years imprisoned in Camp Bucca near the Kuwaiti border. Around 100,000 detainees came through Bucca, including 9 future al-Qaeda in Iraq and ISIS commanders.
In fact, it was the training ground for a whole new generation of Middle Eastern extremist terrorists. The most extreme elements had total control of the camp. The U.S. military didn't see Bucca as a big problem. But what was happening in Bucca was it was a wholly owned subsidiary of al-Qaeda.
Right, so let me explain something to you. This Camp Bucca,
Jilani.
Right? You know what's happening there? They're bringing in all these terrorists they've arrested, right? And it's turning into a factory. He just told you have nine important figures that came out of there. One of them is Jilani, who we're talking about right now. Guess who also was detained and imprisoned in Camp Bucca? Baghdadi, right? So the one that Trump allegedly killed, the head of ISIS, right? Isn't it weird how the United States always has contact and always has some kind of relationship with these terrorists before they suddenly become a threat? Isn't that weird? Right? Osama bin Laden, Zawahiri, they're giving them weapons. They're giving them training. They're giving them logistics and intelligence to fight the Soviets, right? When they mentioned Zarqawi before, correct me if I'm wrong, he was also detained before. They also had him in jail, right? Jilani, Baghdadi, in Camp Bucca. Is that weird? Isn't that weird? So we know for a fact, we know for a goddamn fact, this is crystal clear that the United States, the CIA, has helped train, fund, arm terrorists all over the world. Whether we're talking about the Contras, we're talking about, in Latin America, the death squads, we're talking about the Mujahideen, who later become al-Qaeda, right? In Pakistan and Afghanistan. They always have some kind of contact with them. Here, the same thing in Iraq. The exact same thing. They know all these people. Look at what happened in Europe, in Paris, in London. All of these terrorists are known to the governments beforehand. They know their names. They have files on them. They're surveying them. And then all of a sudden, they just never seem to be able to do anything before they act. Isn't that weird? Isn't that weird? Again, they're not hiding it. They're not hiding it. They openly support these people. And the only difference is that now they say it to you. Now they say it to you. They admit it to you. But they're doing this before. Prepping him, recruiting him. I don't know.
He was around 23 when he arrived. He said he used his time to write a 50-page paper on how to fight jihad back home in Syria.
البحث تقريبا تحليلي الخطة ما يقارب تقريبا 50 صفحة سردت فيها تاريخ سوريا وجغرافيا سوريا والتنوع الطائفي في سوريا وكيف وصل يعني عائلة الأسد إلى الحكم وما إلى ذلك.
Do you have a copy of that document?
No, لكن ما عندي ضاعت في دمشق.
Oh, look at how he's lying. Look at his goddamn face, man. He's such a terrible liar. He's such a terrible liar. He was probably writing some goddamn paper for the CIA. No, but seriously, man. Do you know this guy's not Syrian? Do you know he's born in Saudi Arabia? And now he's writing essays. And now he wants to liberate Syria. You're not even Syrian. What? يعني منين جاي انت? Unbelievable. And he lost it, right? The look on his face. I love this, man. I love this. It gets better. Don't worry. It gets better.
Jelani told me that after his release from prison, he met with a jihadist leader, Abu Muslim, in Mosul. Abu Muslim then suggested Jelani send his paper, the one he had written while in Buqa, to Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi, the new head of the Islamic State of Iraq, ISI.
كتبت له يعني ما أفكر به في سوريا لي عليها ملاحظات كثيرة لا تنقل تجربة العراق إلى سوريا.
Iraq today was swept by another wave of deadly attacks.
He says that he stressed that he didn't want to fight a sectarian war as Zarqawi had.
Now tops 200.
He wanted to fight Assad. Jelani's stated plan was to topple Assad, seize Damascus, and set up an Islamic State in Syria under Sharia law.
So once again, I find this absolutely hilarious that he's like, you know, he's giving his homework basically to you know, his senior commanders. And this guy, again, he's not Syrian. Who are you to come to Syria and decide you're going to invade the country and establish whatever it is you're trying to establish there? I mean, to be fair, to give you the full background, he's born in Saudi Arabia and he moved to Syria as a kid or something. But he's not Syrian, man. Right? His training, his money is definitely not from Syria. This guy's a CIA asset. They say it right now in the documentary. You'll see. I love this. I love how it's just all out in the open. This is the United States. They work with Al-Qaeda. This is all bullshit that they're going to hunt terrorists in Afghanistan. No, they're working like this with them. These are their friends.
Jelani began his attacks on Assad by sending young fighters on suicide missions.
لو كان لدينا الطائرات لاستخدمنا الطائرات ولو كان لدينا مدافع تعوض عن العمل الاستشهادي لحفظنا هؤلاء الإخوة.
Again, do you see how he's trying to whitewash his own record? He's saying, "Oh, I never meant to send anyone on a suicide mission. Look, we had a shortage of weapons. It's not our fault."
Watching Nusra grow inside of Syria, and he seems to be following the same playbook as Hamas, a little bit of Hezbollah and the Muslim Brotherhood.
What? Okay, look, what is that salad? What is that salad? You know what the problem is with this? Like most people around the world who are watching this, like, oh yeah, those all sound very exotic and Muslim-y, right? What does Hamas have to do with Hezbollah, have to do with the Muslim Brotherhood? She talks about them like they're all the same group. Oh my God. And she's a CIA analyst. I don't know what that means. What does that mean? That he's like all three groups. She doesn't explain. They don't say it. You just like throw out these like words, like a goddamn word salad. What does that mean?
That year, 2015, I traveled across Syria's regime-controlled areas.
There we go. There's a secret word, regime, right? So you know how PBS and CNN and well, you know, PBS, to their credit, they do make good documentaries, right? Once in a while. But when they're trying to appear objective, right? Like, oh, we're neutral. We're trying to show both sides, and you know, we're just sitting down with a casual jihadist. There's a $10 million bounty on his head, right? When they say the word regime, you know they're not neutral. This word only appeared after 2011. This is the State Department lexicon. okay? This word regime in regards to Syria, right? You heard it before in regards to Saddam, in regards to Iraq, right? So when Donald Rumsfeld comes to Iraq to sell Saddam Hussein chemical weapons, oh, look, he's the benevolent president of Iraq. But 2002, when they want to destroy Iraq, oh no, now it's a regime. And when the Queen invites Bashar al-Assad and his wife to Buckingham Palace and has tea with them, or Tony Blair and his wife invite Bashar al-Assad and Esma al-Assad to number 10 Downing Street, then back then he's a benevolent Syrian president. Oh, but now it's a regime, right? So when they start the project to go in and dissect the country and pillage it and plunder it, now they got to change the language. It's no longer a president or a government, it's a regime. So anyone who uses this language, I can't take them seriously because they're talking out of their ass. I can't take them seriously. Regime-controlled areas. You mean Syria? Like, seriously, we have to make a point about this. That's like saying, yeah, you know, man, I was driving down Route 69 under the Biden regime-controlled areas. What the fuck? What the fuck does that even mean? It's just Syria. What? That's how ridiculous it sounds. Oh, you don't like extremists messing your country up? Okay, you're a Bidenist. This is how brain dead people sound.
This is Latakia, the heartland of Syria's Alawite community, the small but powerful religious minority aligned with Assad. The Alawites have lost thousands of young men and...
Oh, he thinks it's just Latakia that's aligned with al-Assad? Wait till he hears about the rest of Syria.
Women fighting Nusra, ISIS, and other rebel factions. Their pictures line the streets of the provincial capital. Nearby, Syria's rich frolic on Latakia's Mediterranean beaches.
Okay, I honestly don't even know what he's talking about here. What does that mean? Syria's rich are on Latakia's beaches. Everyone goes to Latakia, as we say. Literally everyone. It's not like some kind of some Sandals Jamaica, exclusive beach resort. It's just Latakia. I really don't know what he's talking about. It's funny though. It's funny because he tries to make it look more exotic than it is. I wish, man, especially after this destruction.
In part, this represents what they are fighting for, a secular way of life away from Islamist influences.
Yeah, which is what all of Syria is fighting against. The entirety of Syria wants a secular, stable country. Look, man, I'm really not interested in arguing with a bunch of people who've, never stepped outside their town, who've never been there, because this is like debating algebra with a monkey. Most Syrians don't want Jolani. They don't want this Free Syrian Army /CIA jihadist bullshit. They really don't. Look what that's got for them in the last 10 years. Compare that to what was, before. The answer is very easy. The answer is extremely easy.
In October 2015, Jolani said Alawite villages should be targeted. Jolani said there is no choice but to escalate the battle and to target Alawite towns and villages in Latakia.
Mm-hmm. You mean genocide?
Do we know?
That's complicated.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it how they lie? He's asking him, like, this guy you support, he said he wants to commit genocide against Alawites. Did we know that? Well, it's complicated. That means yes. That means yes. They knew. Of course they knew.
If those are civilian targets, thus attacking them is terrorist. It also is what national liberation movements and resistance organizations do.
No, it's not just terrorism. That's literally genocide. When you're trying to ethnically cleanse an area, kill a certain group, and this is not just with Alawites, because you have to be very careful here. With the mainstream media, with the Americans, what the corporate media wants you to believe is that what's happening in Syria is like some kind of religious conflict, right? This is the typical thing they use. They do this also with Palestine, right? Because that way they can paint it as like, oh, look at these like primitive people who are fighting over like which god, like Chen Kuger says, like talking out of his ass. There's literally fucking nothing to do with it. Syria, especially Syria, has so much racial diversity and religious diversity. There's no tolerance there. It's coexistence. Do you understand? So this is not about like, oh, look, these like hardcore Sunnis coming to kill these Alawites. That's a tiny part of it. You have ethnic cleansing, you have genocide, but that's not what the Syrian war is about. The Syrian war it's a regime change plot by the West and other people in the region, Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Israel. Right? Israel openly saying that they're working with Al-Qaeda, the ex-chief of the Mossad. We'll go watch that interview with Mahdi Hassan. We covered it. So be careful. Don't fall into this thing like they do this with Iraq as well to try and whitewash the U.S. invasion. Like, look, man, the invasion was bad, but these Arabs, they keep fighting Sunni and Shia. Shut the fuck up, man. Shut the fuck up. This is what white people have been trying to do in the Middle East for centuries. Divide people on sectarian lines. Dude, literally, look at the map. Look at the globe behind me. Who drew these borders? Who drew the border of Syria? Who drew the border of Turkey, of Lebanon? Of Jordan, Palestine. Who drew these borders? Iraq. This is the French and the British. And they did it especially on sectarian lines because they've been trying to divide people like that forever. They're trying to create divisions and amplify divisions. But it's not how they say it. So be careful. Be very careful.
You fought against al-Sham. You fought against those who stayed with al-Qaeda, Ras al-Din, and ISIS, of course, and even the Free Syrian Army that was backed by the CIA.
Did you see his face when he said CIA? Like, shit, he caught me.
CIA.
Yeah, we know, bitch. We know. But of course, you can't say this, right? When people were saying from the beginning of the war, these motherfuckers are CIA. Oh no, you're an Assadist. Oh no, you're a Ba'athist. Oh no. Dude, this is like, how ignorant are you? Have you never opened a fucking history book? The CIA even spy on other agencies in the US. Never mind what they do to other countries. We all know this now, that the CIA is involved since day one. You had SAS as well, right? British Special Forces coming in the whole time. They're still there. Of course, they're still there. The Foreign and Commonwealth Office, making up these Incostrat, ARC, Zinc, Integrity Initiative bullshit to start a media war against Syria. They're all involved since day one. We know this. Because we have the files. We have the proof. It's not conjecture. We have proof. We got receipts. Look, did he deny being in the CIA? Well, being, in the Free Syrian Army, which is funded and supported and trained by the CIA. He doesn't deny it. He doesn't deny it one bit. Because his ass is guilty. His ass is guilty.
Jilani is clear. Society should be organized according to Sharia law. He claims to be a man of the people, but he opposes democracy.
Oh no, I thought that was only Bashar al-Assad who doesn't support democracy, huh? No? Oh, it turns out they're fucking Free Syrian Army. Their freedom fighters ain't too democratic themselves, are they? Huh?
Women hold no political offices in the Salvation government, and women's rights are severely restricted.
What?
I think that he has a...
Hold on, women's rights are severely restricted? Women's rights are severely restricted? That's not what Vice told me. That's not what CNN told me. This is what they want. This is what they want for Syria. Right? Oh, we want freedom and democracy. And turns out their freedom and democracy is this. A bunch of CIA spooks running around, giving guns and weapons to people like Jolani, who come from Al-Qaeda, who come from Al-Nusra, which is now Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. This is their idea of democracy. And they come and tell you, no. But they're both bad and we don't want this. Well, this is what it produces, you fucking smartass. Because if you knew what you were talking about instead of speaking out of your asshole, you would know that when you remove someone like Saddam Hussein, when you remove someone like Gaddafi, when you remove someone like Bashar al-Assad, you get this shit. But you don't know that because you're ignorant and you're dumb and you don't understand anything about this region. You don't speak its language. You've never been there. You talk out of your asshole. Everything you've ingested comes from mainstream media, from Western indoctrination. So of course you would think that. You think you can copy and paste liberal democracy wherever you like. And you don't even have it yourself. So I don't even know what you're copying to paste in the first place. Because if you look at the West, where is their democracy? Where is their freedom of press? Where are their civil liberties? It's all a farce, right? So they claim, oh no, I'm neutral. And it's no, this is so neutral. You can have a secular, stable Syria, or you can have this. Is that what you want? Apparently it is, because they won't learn their lesson, right?
Extremist Islamic view of how society should be organized, I would say a Salafist viewpoint, and he's willing to use force to achieve that.
What does that mean, a Salafist?
What that means is you run society by the Sharia and carry that out in the governance of the here and now should rule.
And he said he's willing to use force to achieve it. So he's a terrorist. And that's who the United States ambassador is saying the United States supports. All right?
الجولاني يسيطر على معظم مفاصل الحياة فيها كلمة لا تعجبه يتم اعتقال أي شخص تم اعتقاله من قبل عناصر التنظيم من منزل الأهلي. ليس هناك محاكمات، ليس هناك قضاء، ليس هناك محامي يمكن أنه تقوم بتوكيله.
In 2019, after a little over a year in prison, he was executed.
في اللحظات الأخيرة سامر طلب من السجناء إنه أخبروا أهلي، يعني أخبروا محمد وأخبروا والدي. السجانين أخبروهم إنه تم قتل هذا، يعني العبارة هي بالتنصيص تم قتل هذا الخنزير.
Human rights groups continue to document cases of torture in Jolani's prisons.
Here we go again. I mean, that is absolutely heartbreaking, that story. That is absolutely heartbreaking. That is vile, what they said about his brother. And I can see behind the dude, he has a Free Syrian army flag. I mean, I call it a colonial rag because it comes from French colonial times. So I don't, anyway, this is a whole other story, but I feel sorry for him and for his brother. And this is the problem, is that you have people, maybe with good interests, who have good intentions, who want some change. But who ends up actually taking control in the end? It's people like Jolani. Why? Because the United States is coming in and funding them. The United States has an agenda here. Nothing is happening without their interference. And look how many countries had to interfere. Look how many countries. We're talking a dozen countries here. All trying to take a piece of Syria, creating this chaos. So of course no one with good intentions is going to win, you know? You're not getting any kind of change because Uncle Sam has another agenda. That's what it is. And the people who suffer is the civilians. That's who gets sanctioned, starved, killed, maimed, bombed. It's the civilians. It's always.
التعذيب يعني.
There is no torture after we just saw how he literally tortured and killed that other guy's brother. I mean, this guy's a liar. We're talking about someone from Al-Qaeda. I mean, are we really going to have a debate here?
هذا الشيء مرفوض تماما يعني. هو ممكن تأتي منظمات حقوقية وتشرف على السجون وتشرف أو يعني.
Pay attention. What does he say here? He says, inspect the prisons. Remember this line. He says, human rights organizations can come and inspect the prisons. Okay?
تعمل جولة على السجون. نحن مؤسساتنا مفتوحة للجميع يعني. ما عندنا مشكلة يعني. وإذا كان هناك يوجد أخطاء فنحن نساعد في علاجها يعني.
You're saying Human Rights Watch, Syria Observatory for Human Rights, and other human rights groups have an open invitation from you to visit your prisons?
نحن ليس.
We do not have prisons. Dude, he literally just said, you can come visit our prisons. What is going on here? He can't help himself. He has to lie from one sentence to the next. He literally just said, you can come inspect our prisons. Really? Oh no, we don't have any prisons. Oh. By the way, you want to look at what happened? Do you remember how the entire Syrian civil war, as they call it, the civil war, started because some boys were killed? This is what Jolani did, okay? This is from last year. This is April 2020. So this boy over here, Muhammad Tano, who's 19, was executed by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham because he criticized the militant group's leader. So Al-Jolani, this guy, that's who he criticized, and he executed him. So I'm really trying to understand how this guy is according to them, they say he's a better alternative In what way? In what way? I mean, if you're, for the love of God, I really cannot understand how you have so many people, right? The so-called anti-imperialist left, the human rights organizations, whatever, you name it. Dude, if you find yourself on the side of the United States and Al-Qaeda, I mean, do you not stop for 1 second and say, what the fuck am I doing here? No? I can assure you, man, Syria, if they wanted a revolution, they would have done it. Do you know there were so many revolutions in the period before Bashar's father took power? There was a guy who was president for 1 day. Maybe two, if I'm not mistaken. There were two people who were president for 1 day. You go and look at Wikipedia, there's literally a graph. You can see all of these coups that were happening like 1 week after the other. If Syrians wanted a revolution, they would have done it. In over 10 years, with sanctions, with a war, they would have done it. They would have done it. No one can withstand that. Who can withstand that, being attacked by Israel? Who can withstand being attacked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Turkey, the United States, France, Germany, the UK? Who can withstand that? And not to mention these people like Jolani, all these terrorist factions. Who can withstand that and withstand sanctions and bombs? And not have the support of their people? That doesn't work, man. Just think about what you're saying. That doesn't work. There's no way. There's no way. Yeah, we don't have prisons, right? So he's a real joker. He's an absolute joker.
Turkey is trying to keep the Assad regime and its allies from targeting civilians and getting them running for their lives across the Turkish frontier into that country, a scenario they claim they can't handle, and that's a real fear.
Here is this large Syrian province. It borders Turkey. It is home to millions of Syrians. They have Islamists on the one side, and they have Assad's forces on the other. And they're hemmed in by a Turkish border that is effectively closed to them.
Okay, I'm really finding this hilarious because they're acting like Turkey has nothing to do with this. No, Turkey is occupying Idlib. Turkey is supporting HTS openly. They're supporting other groups also, like the Syrian National Army, as they call it, the SNA. It sounds like it's the real Syrian army, like the official armed forces of the Syrian Arab Republic. It's not. It's just that's just what it's called, and it's a group created and backed by Turkey, right? So Turkey is protecting Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. Turkey was insisting, and the West as well, the United States and their allies at the UN Security Council, that all of the aid from the United Nations has to go through where? Idlib. So they're insisting, like, no aid goes to the government in Damascus. No, it has to go to the nut job terrorists that we're supporting in Idlib. And of course, Turkey is occupying that region, right? They want to steal more land, just like they stole Antioch. They've stolen, tons of land from Syria, just after Sykes-Picot alone, right? Never mind what happened to Armenia.
When I visited, a Salvation Government crew had recently repaved a washed-out road with gravel.
حتى الناس لما بتمشي بتغرز يعني هذا نموذج من آلاف النماذج.
Okay, what does that even mean? Do you see how he's trying to portray himself like, oh, look at me, I'm so benevolent. I'm rebuilding the infrastructure. We put gravel on this road. Really? Listen, man. Every single year before the war, there was infrastructure improvement in Syria, okay? And it was much more than just putting some gravel on the road, right? They had entire highways being built, bridges, tunnels. The electricity would not cut out anymore, right? That was a big problem in Syria. And now it's back because of what? Because of the war. But before it started in 2010, 2011, I was just talking to my cousin last week. There were no more electricity cuts. We were reminiscing about that. Now you get 4 hours to 8 hours maybe per day. But before the war started in 2010, there were no more electricity cuts. So they basically came and destroyed the entire fucking country and set it back 50 years. And they'll say, oh, look, we put some gravel on the road. Fuck you and fuck your gravel, you piece of shit. The country was improving regardless of what you want to say. It was improving because I seen it with my own fucking eyes. You ain't going to come here and tell me otherwise. What is this?
We repeatedly asked the Biden administration for comment, but they declined. A stated policy has not yet been issued on Idlib, HTS, and what to do about Jilani.
You know what? They don't need to state anything, because just like under Bush, just like under Obama, just like under Trump, Joe Biden is a sponsor of terrorism, because that's what the United States does. They go into Latin America, Central America, they go into Asia, they go into the Middle East, they go into Africa, and they train, fund, and arm terrorist groups. That's what they do. And they do it to overthrow other countries, to replace the leaders with leaders that are favorable to the United States. And this is the same goddamn thing. The only difference is they failed. Syria is the only country that has said, fuck you, screw you, to the Americans and to their imperialism. And not just the Americans. We're talking about Israel, Saudi Arabia. What country has withstood an attack 10 years long from that many parties? None. Show me one. Just one. Although, of course, every country is different. You know, with the example of Cuba, for example, Cuba's been under embargo for 60 years. That's also resistance to imperialism, a successful one, right? So each country has its own struggle, own story. But this is a very important one as well. And I want to remind you of something, because this Jilani figure, now he's commanding HTS. What was he commanding before? Al-Nusra. They just renamed it. It's just a rebranding, right? They have groups breaking off. They have groups forming. They just renamed them. It's the same gang. It's the same people. And it's always the same powers behind them. And what did he do? What did he do in 2013? What did he do in 2013? There's a town 1 hour from Damascus, which is called Ma'lula. Ma'lula. This town is very special because they speak Aramaic in this town. Aramaic. Not Armenian, Aramaic. Aramaic is what Jesus spoke. It's an ancient language, ancient Semitic language, right? So Hebrew and Arabic, they have their roots in Aramaic. This town still speaks it. It's a dead language, right? Do you know? I mean, have you ever heard of that? It's incredible. And as a matter of fact, this scumbag, Jilani, with al-Nusra at the time, this is what they did. Let me show you what they did to Ma'lula. They came and desecrated it. They took the town. And look what they did to it. This is a picture of it. I'm just showing you a picture first. All right? Take a look. This is Ma'lula. It's absolutely gorgeous. Right? Here you can see how it looks like. Look at that. Absolutely gorgeous. You have a covenant at the top, right? And you also have a monastery. This monastery is one of the oldest in the world. It's built in the 5th and 6th century. That's how old it is. 5th, 6th century AD. One of the oldest in the world. Right? And this is the covenant. Do you know what they did to the nuns here? They kidnapped them. They went and kidnapped the nuns. I've met these nuns, right? With my mother, with my grandmother, we've been to Ma'lula a million times. Roni, who's been on the show as well, that's our favorite place to go. I can't count how many times I've been here. And I remember specifically one time we were invited in. We had coffee and sat down, and you know, my mother and my grandmother, they spoke with the head of the covenant, with the nuns there. They even have pictures. They kidnapped them. That's what this al-Jilani did. Him and al-Nusra. And you think I'm making this up? It literally says it right here. Take a look at the Battle of Ma'lula, right? So this is 2013. Look what it says down here. Al-Nusra, Jilani. There he is. He's in charge. This sack of shit kidnapped a bunch of nuns who have literally done nothing. And they desecrated, they smashed all of the religious artifacts. Absolutely heartbreaking. They kidnapped these nuns and held them hostages for months. And then he wants to come here and pretend like, oh, we don't torture people in Idlib. We're civilized. We're democratic. The minorities have nothing to fear. He says that in the documentary, in the PBS thing, right? We have nothing against minorities. You literally kidnapped a bunch of Christian nuns. You invaded an ancient Christian town and pillaged it. You fucking liar. But this is the thing. They don't mention that in the documentary. Do you think that guy who's sitting with him, the host, the anchor from PBS, the journalist, he never mentions it, what I just told you about Ma'lula. And Jolani was in charge. You don't think that's an important thing to ask or to respond with? When he says, oh no, we got no problem with minorities. You should tell him, well, why did you kidnap a bunch of nuns and you desecrated and you plundered this Christian town? Not to mention the other things. This is not just an isolated incident. Not a word. So someone who has no clue about Syria, he comes and watches that and might believe this bullshit. Oh, look, he's a reformed man. Oh, wow, Idlib is so democratic. Yo, man, the propaganda is so unreal. It's so unreal. I swear to God, like this is like this is the equivalent of someone sitting down with a fucking KKK Grand Wizard and trying to make them look like they're a peace-loving, democracy-promoting champion of equal rights. That is exactly what the fuck this is. That is a perfect analogy for what is going on. And that tells you how sick, how twisted all this imperialist scum is. What they've been doing for 10 years. Just let that sink in. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. So I sat down and I picked out the most important parts and went through them for you. Go watch it if you will. But beware. Beware. It's full of propaganda just like anything else. Right? Anyone in their right minds knows that Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, you can't reason with these people. You can't reason with them. They're monsters. They're terrorists. They're not even acting by themselves. They're being sponsored by the CIA, by the United States and other countries. This guy is not even Syrian. Jolani is not even a Syrian. You're telling me that this guy from Saudi Arabia has the right to come and just grab and steal one of the biggest cities in Syria and an entire province? Fuck you. What is Turkey doing there? Fuck you too. This is not your country. This is not your land. We're not having a debate here. Piss off. But here in the documentary, they don't even tell you that he's not Syrian. They try to present it like, look, this guy is like an equal alternative to the government. What are you talking about? He's a foreign invader. He's a terrorist. So there you go. This is very important to break this down because there's so much propaganda and disgusting indoctrination going on here. Really. Totally Awesome sent a super chat, says the US mainstream media whitewashing the head choppers. That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. We gotta hold on. I'm just reading your questions before I move on to the next segment. I'm just reading your questions over here. Cameron says Vietnam and Cuba resisted. Yes, they did. Yes, they did. And we're going to get to Cuba in a second. All right. So just give me a second to drink some water. And if you have any questions, just shoot. All right. If you have any questions, just shoot. I'm going to leave this up here. Give me a second. We got a lot to cover, man. But seriously, it's so infuriating. I cannot believe the nerve of these people. They come and whitewash this goddamn terrorist piece of shit. Right, like it's perfectly okay for the United States to go and bomb 19 different countries to fight Al-Qaeda. But then when they send Al-Qaeda to Syria, the Syrians have to just shut up and take it. Is that it? Is that it? Really? You think that's how it's going to be? No, I don't think so. No, I don't think so. So over here, this is this is such terrible timing for a crab dance, but I mean, there never is a terrible timing for a crab dance. David, I want to say thank you very much to David for signing up to support the show, to support independent anti-imperialist media. Believe it or not, I'll tell you in a second. I'm just going to play the crab dance. Thank you very much, David. This is for you. Okay, this is for you.
clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Yo. Thank you very much, David. You rock. You absolutely rock. I gotta say thank you. I gotta say thank you to Claudia for this absolutely wonderful crab dance. And look at this. This is absolutely astonishing. Look at the goal we're at. I cannot believe this. I really cannot believe this. You guys rock. Thank you so much. Check this out. 418. 418. Wow. Thank you so much for supporting independent media. I really appreciate it. All right. So let's move on to the next segment. I want to get down to business. So all the links are in the description, right? Anyway, let's get down to business. Right. So there have been protests happening in Cuba, right? And of course, the rational response from the Americans is what? Oh, let's go bomb it. Yeah, let's just go bomb Cuba, right? Let's just bomb everything we don't like. So I'm going to play you this clip from the Miami mayor, and you can take a listen to what he proposes the United States do with Cuba, right?
And what should be being contemplated right now is a coalition of potential military action in Cuba, similar to what has happened in both administrations, in both Republican and Democrat administrations. In Republican with Bush in Panama, they deposed Noriega, and that country had peaceful democracy for decades. And you had interventions by Democratic presidents, taking out Osama bin Laden in Pakistan. It's a sovereign country where they took out a terrorist that probably saved thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of lives, and President Clinton in Kosovo intervening in a humanitarian issue with airstrikes. So there have been many opportunities in the history.
Are you suggesting airstrikes in Cuba?
What I'm suggesting is that option is one that has to be explored and cannot be just simply discarded as an option that is not on the table. And there's a variety of ways the military can do it, but that's something that needs to be discussed and needs to be looked at as a potential option, in addition to a variety of other options that can be discussed.
Yeah. I don't know what that word salad was at the end. He's like, that's like an
Started
option.
off as a protest for one man. Former
That's
President
like an
Jacob
option,
Zuma. Today it has engulfed the entire country. Business owners are complaining of...
we can option and explore, right? Lots of options. He went on afterwards on NBC. Take a look at what they asked him over here, right? Take a look at this.
I want to bring in Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, a Republican. Both his father and mother came to the United States from Cuba as children. Mayor Suarez, good to have you back. Thank you so much for your time this morning. In an interview on another network on Tuesday, you said that the United States military should consider airstrikes against Cuba. Why?
No, what I said in another station was that there were instances where different administrations had, considered military options in different theaters.
Dude, that's literally what you said. Why are you lying? That's literally what he said. Like we should consider airstrikes. Maybe there are other options, but that's definitely an option amongst the other options. It's an option. We should go and bomb them. Let's kill him. Don't you love how this guy is himself Cuban? You have this weird phenomenon where you have exiled Venezuelans or exiled Syrians or exiled Cubans, right? Who are so bloodthirsty, or Iranians as well, exiled Iranians who have like this bloodlust against their own country, right? Let's just go bomb it. Quick, Uncle Sam, let's go bomb it. Please, can we bomb it? Calm down. Calm down. Have you lost it? It's not just him. It's Marco Rubio. It's Ted Cruz. Like they got this bloodlust. Let's fucking bomb it. Yo, have you not screwed Cuba enough? Have you not done enough? Jesus, do you never run out of bombs? Of course they don't. Here, let's take a look at Ted Cruz.
When it comes to Cuba, it's not complicated. Here's what Joe Biden needs to say. The communist dictatorship in Cuba is evil. It is oppressive. They are murderers. They are torturers. And the people want freedom. The American people stand with the Cuban people. And unfortunately, the Biden administration has been lukewarm at best.
Yeah, I can't take you seriously. You and a senator, and you're accusing others of being torturers and murderers. Come on. Enough. Stop this. Enough. So it gets worse. It gets worse because it's not just the Miami mayor, right? Suarez. It's not just Ted Cruz. No. We have some other Republicans who also want to get that bloodlust in, right? Are you ready? Are you ready for the man himself? You already know who it is. You already know who it is, man. Hey, it's Mike Pompeo. Look at this. He says, we know how to help the Cuban people. We did it for the Iranians. Let's do it. Oh, really? You did, huh? Right? Because his idea of helping Iranians is starving them to death, right? Preventing them from importing medication, infrastructure parts, just anything it is. Airplane parts, dialysis machines, you name it, right? Let's screw their banking sector. We'll target their oil sector. We'll completely ruin their exports so they can't do anything with their oil. We'll make sure that Israel keeps getting away with bombing them and sabotaging them. Yeah, of course. Mike Pompeo is Iran's best friend. You didn't know this? Let me just remind you real quick how Mike Pompeo helped Iran, right? Let's take a look. Here's the economic growth as soon as the sanctions hit, right? Trump, and by extension Pompeo, they leave the nuclear deal, right? In May 2018. Look at that. Look how they screwed the economy, right? Now, of course, this is, again, not the best metric of how a good standard of living, GDP growth. But nonetheless, we have other metrics here. Look at the oil output. We've already taken a look at this. See how it plummets? So yeah, that's Mike Pompeo's idea of helping Iranians, right? That's his idea. And he goes on Fox. I know you have to suffer with me. I'm sorry. We have to watch this. Take a look.
Supporting democracy at home to scowling at it abroad. You can always count on the American left to stand with the dictators, at least if they're anti-American.
Wait, who is the American left? I wish she was talking about someone real. Who is the American left? I mean, you know who she's talking about here, right? Who she thinks she's talking about. Joe Biden, apparently. And they stand with dictators too, right? Whatever that means.
Upon Fidel Castro's death, Jimmy Carter remarked that he and Rosalind remembered fondly their visits with him in Cuba and his love of his country. Obama continued that democratic tradition, attending a baseball game with Raul, extolling Cuba's achievements in education and healthcare.
Do you see how disgusted she is? Their achievements in education and healthcare, those terrible things that no civilized society should ever have. Ugh. What is this brain dead bullshit?
And the media even gets in the game. Who could forget Barbara Walters' fawning 2020 interview with Castro? That was a classic. So it should come as no surprise that with the Democratic protests spilling out this weekend, the media, well, they look for a Cuban scapegoat.
There's no question that the pandemic has made everything much worse.
People there are outraged over the country's coronavirus response.
Their life has become intolerable during the pandemic.
But the New York Times might have had the best reaction, writing that the protests were shouting freedom and other anti-government slogans. Something tells me.
Do you realize how she hasn't mentioned any sanctions? They specifically cut those out, and I know because we looked at them together, right? I mean, you barely had any reports mentioning sanctions, right? She didn't say, "Oh, look at these Democrats. They're not talking about sanctions. They're being untruthful." No. She's totally fine with it. They're all fine with it. There's no difference between Republican, Democrat, right? She's just angry that they blamed a little bit of the economic crisis on, COVID and pandemic, which is, this is true. This is applicable to virtually every nation, you could say, in one dimension or another, right? But it's definitely not the biggest cause, and she knows that. So who does she bring on?
Good times with just being honest about where they stood. Joining me now, former Secretary of State, Fox News contributor, Mike Pompeo. Secretary Pompeo, the reaction from the media, the Democrats, the left, have been, I think, quite revealing to people who've forgotten that they were doing the same kind of thing, with the Soviet Union back in the 80s when I was in college.
Yes, Laura, thanks for having me on the show. It's absolutely the case. They've pointed the finger at COVID. The Cubans have pointed the finger at the Americans. The truth is, this is about communism. This is about socialism. This is about people demanding freedom. They know that the lives of their families won't be better next generation. They know that their country was designated by me as a state sponsor of terror.
Dude, he's literally bragging. He's bragging. Well, that they know that I designated their country as a state sponsor of terrorism. Yeah, that's sanctions. That's a fancy way of saying I increased the sanctions on Cuba. That's literally what it means. He's fucking bragging on Fox News. I sanctioned them. They can go fuck themselves. You motherfucker. Yeah, they do know. They do know that you did that. My goodness. It's funny how he's more honest than her. Like, he's the only one to bring up sanctions, although he didn't say it outright. Oh, God. They're so terrible.
They know that things aren't good. The conditions of the evil leadership and the communist dictates of that leadership have spoiled their lives, and they want freedom. You see them waving not only Cuban flags, but American flags. These are people who understand. And if you've seen anybody down in Florida who left Cuba, those exiles that are now living in America, they know freedom. They know the reality of it. They know the benefits of it. They know why it matters to their soul and their pocketbook. It's all the Cuban people are asking for. This isn't about the coronavirus. This isn't about an American plot. This is about the Cuban people demanding that their leadership fundamentally change their
an American plot. You've literally been sanctioning Cuba for 60 years. You tried to fucking invade them. You tried to invade them in 1961. The CIA sent an army. Remember Pompeo? I don't know, he's probably in diapers at the time. But nonetheless, he's former director of the CIA. He knows damn well what the CIA has been doing in Cuba. He knows damn well. Anyone with a fucking brain, anyone who's read Cold War History 101 knows this shit. It's not about some American plot. It's just, it's the evil communists. Dude, you could take this transcript and remove the names, and I could not tell you if this is 2021 or it's 1969. I have no clue.
Their ways.
But Mr. Secretary, they did kind of the same thing, did they not, during the Hong Kong protests? There was a very muted reaction by the elites here in the United States. Obviously, we pointed out what the sports community was doing, which was thwarting real support of what was happening in Hong Kong.
Oh no, the goddamn sports community. The sports community thwarted our coup in Hong Kong. What does that even mean? What? This is primetime cable. This is the news that Americans get. Oh Lord. Oh Lord. Oh Lord, we have a lot of work to do, don't we? Oh Lord. So basically, the entire premise of this segment is what? I was like, oh look, the Democrats, they're not hawkish enough on Cuba, right? They're just keeping Pompeo sanctions, right, in place. Trump sanctions, all the other sanctions on Cuba, Iran, Syria, Venezuela, right? They're keeping all that, but they're still not hawkish enough. Still not hawkish enough, right? So words, apparently, words. This is more important than starving people, crippling their economy, making sure that, they can't get out of any kind of situation that is brought on by whether it's economic beforehand or the pandemic, right? So we were talking last time about how because of the embargo, Cuba could not import syringes, ventilators. This is cruelty. You can't sit there like a civilized human being and tell me that this is okay, this is normal. Wait, what did the Cuban people do to you that you think it's okay to deprive them of syringes and ventilators? And any time, not just especially during a pandemic, never mind during a pandemic. This is barbaric, honestly. And, you know, I just want to remind you very quickly, that other mayor of Miami, Suarez, you know, he's like reminiscing all the good old times, the nostalgia, right? Like, oh, you remember when we fucked up Kosovo? Remember when we went into other countries? For some reason, he said like Pakistan is a sovereign country when we fucking violated it and went and killed bin Laden, who, you know, is a CIA asset. He also mentioned this. So on this day, meaning December 20th in 1989, George H.W. Bush, that's the bigger bastard, ordered 27,000 troops to invade Panama to overthrow former CIA asset Manuel Noriega, killing 5,000 people, dumping bodies in mass graves, and destroying thousands of homes. Ah, yes, the good old days. Yes. So that's what he's advocating for in Cuba, among other things, right? Among other things. And then, of course, when we talk about this muted reaction, so let's look at the muted reaction as Laura Ingraham, yes, this great intellectual, and Mike Pompeo and all these Republicans say. Let's take a look what they mean by that. What are the Democrats saying that is so offensive to them? Let's take a look. So over here, we have, this is from, take a look. This is from Bernie Sanders. He says, all people have the right to protest and to live in a democratic society. I call on the Cuban government to respect opposition rights and refrain from violence. It is also long past time to end the unilateral U.S. embargo on Cuba, which has only hurt, not helped the Cuban people. Okay, so let's get one thing straight. This entire first part is just garbage. That literally has nothing to do with anything. That has nothing to do with anything. Let's take a look at this. AOC says, we stand in solidarity with the Cuban people and condemn the suppression of the media, speech, and protest. We also call for an end to the U.S. embargo and additional Trump-era sanctions that are profoundly contributing to the suffering of Cubans. So, once again, do you see how Bernie Sanders, AOC, they got to put this like little disclaimer over here, the usual American disclaimer? Like, look, the embargo is bad, but you're still a shit country, right? The embargo is bad, but you know, you got to do things our way. The embargo is bad, but you know, here's some propaganda about Cuba. Right? So apparently they care so much about press freedoms, which is why Bernie Sanders and AOC, and all the Democrats, all of them, the whole Democratic Party, they're such staunch advocates of ending the persecution, right, of Julian Assange, because they care so much. They're so vehemently opposed to embargoes that they've also come out in support of asking Biden to end the sanctions, the Trump-era sanctions, as they say, on Syria and Iran and Venezuela, right? Because they obviously understand that sanctions are bad. Oh, no, they haven't said shit about either of these issues. Oh, wow. That's right. That's just posturing, right? It's just, I'll release a little statement here, but I don't actually give a shit. I'm not going to fight for it. Here's another response from the Biden administration. Take a look. Homeland Security Chief says the United States will not give refuge to those fleeing Cuba and Haiti by boat. So, you know Mayorkas. We've looked at him reopening Trump's cages. Remember the kids in cages, right? Allow me, quote, this is from Mayorkas. Allow me to be clear. If you take to the sea, you will not come to the United States. What does it say here? Mayorkas, a Cuban immigrant who fled the island with his family in 1960, issued his stern warning in the wake of seismic political events that have rocked Cuba and Haiti in recent days. Is that a weird, again, you have this phenomenon of people who are like, fuck you, I got mine. You see this in the UK as well, you know? The Home Secretary, Priti Patel, she's bringing in these new immigration laws that her own parents would not qualify for. She was asked that because her parents immigrated to the UK. And someone asked her, a reporter asked her, would your parents be able to come to the UK under your own laws? No. And this guy himself, right? They claim to love Cubans, but now they're saying, no. You can stay there. You can keep starving under our sanctions. You can keep, according to them, it's so horrible over there, but they won't take anyone. What a weird paradox, right? Cuba's apparently such a hellhole. We know why. Thanks, Uncle Sam. But at the same time, no, we can't help you. You're not coming to the United States. Fuck you. I got mine. Wow. What humanitarians, right? What humanitarians. What benevolent characters. Here we have some from Amnesty International. Of course, they also have to repeat the CIA bullshit. The Diaz-Canel government is to address the social demands of its citizens, given the economic crisis, the shortages of food and medicine, the collapse of the health system, which is not responding to the current COVID-19 crisis. Where's the mention of sanctions? How can you talk about Cuba and you don't mention sanctions? There, don't get me wrong, man. People have legitimate grievances wherever they may be, right? I could talk to another Syrian. They could also have legitimate grievances, of course, all right? But this is not accurate. You can't come here and tell me that, oh yeah, this is just because of the regime, right? They keep using this word, the regime in Cuba. They're to blame for everything. Really? Really? Is that so? I want to play you a little clip over here. This is, if I'm not mistaken, his name is Stockwell. So he used to work for the CIA. Listen to what he says. Listen to what he says about what the CIA does.
Our contact man in Europe was, and we pumped just dozens of stories about Cuban atrocities, Cuban rapists. In one case, we had the Cuban rapists caught and tried by the Ovimbundu maidens who had been their victims, and then we ran photographs that made almost every newspaper in the country of the Cubans being executed by the Ovimbundu women who supposedly had been their victims.
These were fake photos?
Oh, absolutely. We didn't know of one single atrocity committed by the Cubans. It was pure, raw, false propaganda to create an illusion of communists, eating babies for breakfast and that sort of totally false propaganda.
But the CIA is reformed now. They would never do anything like that. I swear to God, there's some dude from the CIA on Twitter, right, who said he's former CIA, he's got a little blue check, and he's like, okay, maybe the CIA has been misused a few times, but give me an example in the last 50 years. Motherfucker, you're literally in Syria right now trying to topple the government. Right now. You've been kidnapping and torturing and their whole rendition program. That's under Bush. That's under Obama. And I bet your ass they're still doing it. What do you think? The CIA is like, oh, look, we're reformed now. We're choir boys. We don't do nothing. That was back then. Yeah, and back then they were saying, no, we don't do this. But yeah, let's just swallow all this bullshit propaganda, that they've been spewing about Cuba, about Syria, about Iran, about Venezuela. Why would the CIA lie? Why would the American media lie? They're fucking honest. Jesus Christ, I swear some people, they just don't want to learn. They just don't want to learn. They refuse to learn, right? So again, we have this dilemma, right? Where people, they come along, whether it's politicians, pundits, I don't know, and they go, oh, I'm anti-interventionist, right? No, American imperialism is bad. But now I'm going to go and repeat all of the shit that the United States says to justify American imperialism or Western imperialism because it's US and its allies, right? So yeah, let's lift the embargo, but Cuba is a dictatorship. Look what the communist regime has done. Oh my God, they haven't handled the crisis. Oh, I'm against intervention in Syria, but Bashar al-Assad is a dictator. You fucking robot. You goddamn sheep. You fucking idiot. You telling me you've been sitting there for 10 years? We got troves of documents coming out how the CIA is funding jihadists, how the British Foreign and Commonwealth Office is creating fake news and disinformation campaigns against Syria, and you still believe that bullshit? And the same thing about Maduro, and the same thing about any country they don't like. So you have these people who think that they're being neutral, right? Oh, I'm so neutral. I'm objective. I'm in the middle. No, when you come here and you repeat the bullshit that came out of the State Department, these phrases, Assadist, these phrases like communist, right? Regime. That's not you. You're not thinking for yourself. You took that out of your ass. You've been indoctrinated with that. That's not you. You can't think for yourself. That's pathetic. That's pathetic. That's literally the antithesis of being objective. You're not objective. When you come here and you want to tell me that there's, the embargo, 60 years of economic crippling has done nothing to Cuba, this is brainwashing. That's not honest. You want to come here and tell me that these people want regime change, that's being dishonest. You're not being objective. You're not being neutral. You're being dishonest. Because that is not true. That's not the truth. That is not the truth. So, unfortunately, indoctrination is very powerful. Very unfortunately. And basically, the only difference between Democrats and Republicans is that, they both want the embargo, right? They'll both talk about bombing Cuba. It's just that the Democrats, they say let's lift the embargo. They say it, but they don't actually care about doing it. They don't care about the embargo, the sanctions on Syria, on Iran, on Venezuela. Those are all Trump sanctions, right? I thought Biden is better than Trump. Why is he keeping all of Trump's sanctions? Can you explain that to me? Why is he keeping Trump policies? Why did he roll back some of them, right? But he kept the ones that starve people, that kill people, that ruin other countries' economies. The most vicious Trump policies. Why did he keep them? Could it be that there's no difference, except perhaps in decorum? Could it be that these people telling you that Democrat is lesser of the two evils are full of shit? Right? Here's a good tweet from Ryan. We had him on the show. Let's take a look at what he had to say in response to this tweet. So this is Julie Chung, okay? Acting Assistant Secretary for U.S. Department of State. Cuba's government targets anyone with a voice they cannot control. Police raided homes across the country, disappearing journalists, artists, even chess masters. Oh, wow. This sounds a lot like, those communists eating babies, right? They even kidnapped chess masters. Goodness gracious me. Whatever will we do for the tournament? Raising your voice is a human right, but Cuba's government sees people speaking up for themselves as an existential threat. And what did Ryan say? Ryan says, I was visited by undercover cops 24 hours after I posted a mildly critical tweet of a U.S. government official. And that U.S. government official was AOC. So you want to come here and talk to me about, attacking dissidents, police state, they're repressing dissenters. Motherfucker, the United States is the number one in all those things. And that is factual. That is proven. They even admitted. You just heard the CIA agent telling you how much they lie. He just says it so casually because they do it so casually. And then what does Biden do? Look, this is what he has to say about Cuba, right? After he's keeping Trump's devilish, evil sanctions against those people. This is what he has to say.
Today, your press secretary said that communism is a failed ideology. I assume that's your view. I was wondering if you could also give us your view on socialism.
Communism is a failed system, universally failed system. And I don't see socialism as a very useful substitute, but that's another story. Cuba is unfortunately, a failed state in repressing their citizens. There are a number of things that we would consider doing to help the people of Cuba, but it would require a different circumstance or a guarantee that they would not be taken advantage of by the government. For example, the ability to send remittances back to Cuba. I would not do that now because the fact is it's highly likely that the regime would confiscate those remittances or big chunks of it. With regard to they need COVID they have a COVID problem in Cuba, I would be prepared to give significant amounts of vaccine if in fact I was assured an international organization would administer those vaccines and do it in a way that average citizens would have access to those vaccines. One of the things that you did not ask, but we're considering, is they have cut off access to the internet. We're considering whether we have the technological ability to reinstate that access.
Did you hear what he just said? He's literally leveraging medical aid, right? Medicine against the Cuban people. That is categorically illegal. You cannot deprive people of medical assistance. And the Cubans don't even want your goddamn help. They just want you to lift the embargo. That's it. Cuba is the first a country in Central Latin America to develop its own COVID-19 vaccine. They send doctors all over the world. And the United States was lobbying other countries, bullying them. Lobbying is a nice way of saying bullying. Not to take in those Cuban doctors, right? Because as you all know, having hundreds of Marines, occupiers with weapons and tanks, this is okay. But Cubans sending a few doctors, no, this is unacceptable. This is immoral. This is reprehensible. This is incorrigible. This is insufferable. How dare they? Wow. So much for humanitarians, right? So now he's saying that we'll give them some aid if they do this and that. No. They don't want your aid. They want you to lift the embargo. And then you have these schmucks. You have these dishonest bastards who come along, and what do they say? They say, well, Cuba's free to trade with whoever it wants. No, it's not. No, it's not. Because when Cuba or Syria or Venezuela or Iran want to go and buy something from, let's say, for example, a company that manufactures syringes, just as an example, and that company does business in the United States or is based in the United States, it doesn't even have to be from the United States. It could just have an office there. It just does business with the U.S. in any capacity. The United States will say, if you sell those syringes to Cuba, we're going to send you to jail and fine you. That's how sanctions work. And it's not just with corporations, with companies, with buying goods. It's with services as well, with finances, anything, right? Even they could go and say, hey, you're a company that you're an oil refinery. If you buy any crude from Venezuela or Iran, we'll kick you out. We'll fine you and jail you, right? So this idea, Cuba's free to trade with anyone else. No, it's not. No, it's not, because the United States is a monopoly. Half of all financial transactions in the world are done in U.S. dollars, right? Unfortunately. So you've already cut Cuba, Iran, Venezuela, Syria off from that, right? You're isolating them economically on top of isolating them politically. So this is nonsense. And I want to read you a tweet here from Ben Norton. Shout out to Ben. Look what he says here. One of the stupidest talking points is that the U.S. blockade on Cuba or Venezuela, Iran, etc. doesn't have a big impact, and the country just blames the embargo. If they truly believe that, why doesn't the United States lift the blockade so that they don't have an excuse? Because they know it's false. Amen. That's the truth. That is the truth. The U.S. government illegally imposes so many sanctions precisely because it knows that they're an effective form of hybrid warfare that destroys the economies of official enemy nations. And then Washington accuses the targeted country of mismanagement. Yeah, this is exactly what's happening, right? This is exactly what's happening. So, I mean, over here, this is what Dan Cohen posted, right? The Colombian vice president, whose police forces have murdered 75 protesters in less than 3 months, urges Cuba, where one protester was killed in clashes with police, to, quote, respect the right of protest. But of course, you won't hear about Colombia in the media. You know why? Because Colombia is a U.S. ally, right? When I was talking to Venezuela's foreign minister, he's a really great guy. He said that Colombia's president is an employee of the United States, and I could not agree more, because that is the truth. That is the truth. Let's talk about Saudi Arabia for a second. Why have you never had an Arab Spring in Saudi Arabia? You ever thought about that? Why don't you ever hear in the media about how Turkey is jailing journalists and dissidents? Why don't you hear about what Israel does, its human rights abuses? Why don't you hear about Colombia killing protesters? Saudi Arabia, dude, they killed a Washington Post journalist, a U.S. resident. Biden refused to sanction. Trump refused to sanction. They did nothing. They let Saudi Arabia murder a Washington Post journalist, right? And now they come here and they pretend to care about freedom of the press. Dude, I swear to God, the United States, its hypocrisy is just staggering. It's unbelievable. And they want to come here and pretend there's just some kind of friction between Democrats and Republicans. They are the same brand of diarrhea. That's it. That's it. You can tell that they don't even believe what they're saying, right? Laura Ingraham, Mike Pompeo, they know this is all a show. This is how they keep the American people distracted, right? They make them think. They give them this false illusion that, oh, look, you have a choice. Oh, you have Democrats and Republicans, and they're vastly different from one another. No, they're not. No, they're not. They're absolutely not. They're absolutely not. The mayor of Miami, he even said himself, we've had Democrats and Republican presidents. You've undertaken foreign intervention. Yeah, we know. They're all war criminals. We know that. Thank you. He says it proudly because it's true. So, I mean, this is absolutely insane. You know, the ones that are saying, let's lift the embargo, right? The progressive, I'm a progressive. They're still repeating the bullshit about Colombia, right? Look at it's a dictatorship. We care so much about press freedoms, you know, which is why they say nothing about Assange. We care so much about the internet being cut off, which is why we're totally fine with Joe Biden and the White House working with Facebook now to make watch lists of people, right? Deplatforming them. We care so much about press freedoms, right? That's why we're lobbying Biden to deal with bin Salman and Turkey and Israel, right? Who regularly kill journalists and maim them. Oh, we care so much about sanctions, which is why we're lobbying Biden to remove sanctions on Syria and Venezuela and on Iran. No, they're not. They're full of shit. Once again, no difference between the two. They can't even say one good thing without inserting that bullshit propaganda in there, right? This is what the United States is, man. It hasn't changed. They're still doing this McCarthyite nonsense, like, oh, it's a communist country. They're so repressive, blah, 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 blah. I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. So Jonas has sent something on PayPal, but it says that it's pending. I'm assuming you put a naughty word in there, and that's not a joke. On PayPal, if you say Syria, right? If you say Palestine, I think they will withhold your payment, and it doesn't tell me what you wrote, but I'm very grateful for it nonetheless. In some cases, they've actually stolen the cash or returned it. I don't even know what happened, but hopefully when it comes through, I'll be able to read it. So thank you, Jonas. We also got something here from. Hold on, it's loading. Laliat, am I saying that correctly? Thank you so much for your donation. They said, for the current live stream, one of the best independent journalists. Thank you very much. I'm humbled. That is a really flattering comment. Thank you so much. And I'm just making sure I caught up on everything. We're not done. We're nowhere near done. By the way, I see we got 376 people watching. Let's go. Hit that like button, man. Comment. We got to fight the YouTube algorithm. They're not cutting me any slack. Emblem Fates, thank you for your tip on Rockfin. Emblem Fates says socialism is not a failed ideology. One example of many. China. Neoliberalism is a failed ideology. Amen. And even though Biden says this bullshit, idiots on the far right will still call him socialist, even though when he agrees 99.9% of the time. Absolutely. That is exactly what I've been trying to say, although I think you articulated it a bit better than me, right? They are seriously coming here and calling Joe Biden soft on Cuba or whatever the hell that means, right? And they're trying to make it out to be like, oh, these Democrats, they're such communists, you know? There's no difference. Joe Biden is more right-wing than most of these so-called right-wingers. He spent his entire career in government pushing right-wing policies. Are you kidding me? Are you not seeing what just happened? Dude, they went and shut down Press TV and 32 other websites. Look what they're doing now with Facebook. Unbelievable. I mean, every way you look at it. I don't even know what to say anymore, man. There's no difference between the two. It's just decorum. So this is all a game. When these Republicans, I don't care whether it's some guy on the street, but especially when it's people in media, they're pretending like, oh, they're such communists in the Democratic Party, they're socialists. That word doesn't even mean anything anymore. That's a farce, right? Because this is the charade. This is the act in U.S. politics. You have people who say that if you're a little bit to the right of Democrats, you're a Nazi, right? And if you're a little bit to the left of the Republicans, you're a communist. This is the height of intellectual debate in mainstream American political discourse. That's as good as it gets, right? That's as smart as it gets. Good luck to you. Good luck to you. Really. This is really what they've engineered with their two-party system, right? They've limited any kind of discourse, any kind of rational thought. So like this tiny spectrum here, there is no rational thought whatsoever. It's a one-party system, right? But in true American extravagance, they have two of them. If someone please tell me in the comments whose quote that is, because I've forgotten, but it's an excellent one. It's not mine. So thank you, Emblem Faith, for the tip. I really appreciate it. Nero says, just too many lies to keep up with. Thank you for speaking the truth. If there's anything I can do to help your cousins and others in Syria, please let me know. Thank you. Seriously, I appreciate that. Unfortunately, there's nothing we can do because of sanctions. You know, it's like, I mean, just think about this. The whole point of sanctions, what they've done with Syria, what they've done with Iran, they cut them off in the banking sector, the oil sector. So like they can't even use banks. You can't even send money. You know, because all of the banks, companies like PayPal, Visa, whatever, they're like, yo, we don't want to deal with this, right? We don't want to be fined. We don't want to be jailed. So the way the sanctions work, they pressure other companies to screw over. And the problem is this is not just about money. This is also about dual use goods. What does that mean? It's things like toothpaste, even toothpaste. So a company that makes toothpaste or toothbrushes, they can't sell that in Syria anymore or export it to Syria anymore because it's a dual use product, meaning it's banned under sanctions. This is the level of depravity, of sickness, of suffering that they inflict on people everywhere, all people who are subject to sanctions. It's truly disgusting, right? So the options to help are very limited. And when countries like Iran try to send fuel, right? They try to send help because they're also under sanctions. They're trying to help Venezuela. They're trying to help Syria. What do the Israelis do? They go and blow up the ships, right? But you don't hear about that on the news. You hear about that here, but they don't tell you on the mainstream media. But thank you. I'm really grateful for your comment. It's the thought that counts. Thank you very much. People are struggling, man. Unblipped Fate says every single time someone on mainstream media spews regime change nonsense, they should be required by law to have Iraq, Libya, and Syria. Hold on, it's scrolling. Iraq, Libya, and Syria before and after photos above their heads as they speak. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Amen. And you guys have seen those pictures before, right? I'm going to pull that up right now because it's important. We cannot forget this. No one has the right to forget this. Look at this. Look at this picture over here. This should 100% appear over the heads of these talking heads when they try to push regime change. Look at that. Look how heartbreaking that is. Look how they destroyed these countries. Look at that. Iraq, Libya, Yemen, Syria. That's their democracy. That's their idea of democracy. And not to mention, of course, the people who are suffering in Iran and Cuba and Venezuela, right? Siege warfare. That's what sanctions are. It's siege warfare. So it's extremely heartbreaking. It's extremely heartbreaking. Over here, we got a bunch of tips. I'm gonna read your questions and your comments. Thank you very much. This is from Anarella. Anarella says, I'm Cuban from Miami. All you speak is truth. Thank you. Standing in solidarity with Syria and all the other countries suffering from these disgusting, lying warmongers from the river to the sea. Ya salam. That's really nice to hear. That's really nice to hear. I'm very grateful. And I'm glad you put the emoji for Syria because, as I mentioned, you know, if you actually say my country's name, like just think how sick that is. If you say my country's name in like a PayPal or a thing, like they're censor it. That's how sick they are. And that's, again, what does that got to do with sanctions? You can't even say the word Syria or Iran in a PayPal note or something because of sanctions. Like this is 1984, man. But I just want to thank you for the kind comment. I'm very grateful, and I'm happy that I'm really humbled to read things like that. Thank you, Anarella, very much. We've also got something from Ghassan. Ghassan says, good job, man. I'm Syrian like you. Ahlan wa sahlan. Ahlan wa sahlan, habibi. Ghassan, of course, this is a Syrian name, right? Of course, I mean, you also Ghassan Kanafani, Palestinian. He's great. But Ghassan is a very common name in Syria. It's a great name. Islamu habibi. Islamu. We also have over here from Mass Casualty. Mass Casualty says, I'll do you one better, Richard. If you're slightly to the left of the democratic socialists, you're also branded a fascist. Horseshoe horse crap theory. Man, it's really egregious because, look, for me, let me explain this, man. For me, I grew up in Europe. Europe is not perfect by any means. As a matter of fact, you have a lot of the same shit over here. Look at all the colonialism, the imperialism comes to Europe. But my point is, when it comes to politics, in parliamentary politics, you don't have two parties. You have like conservatives and, you know, Tories and Labour in the UK, and now it's especially destroyed because, you know, you have Keir Starmer who's in charge. So it's like it's not an opposition party anymore. But you still have some kind of variety, you know, especially in other European countries. You have some variety, right? In the US, the discourse is just like there's nothing. It's nothing. They have to make it all up. Otherwise, people would catch on, right? So they really try to accentuate these non-existing differences, these made-up differences between Democrats and Republicans. It's insane, right? That's all they know. Oh, communist, fascist. That's all they know how to say. It's extremely, extraordinarily ignorant. And I'm not, it's through no fault of their own, I think. You have the same thing in the UK. You have a lot of ignorance politically because this is just, the Europeans and the Americans, they could not get away with their crimes if they didn't keep their people ignorant. This is very important. This is very important. So, we got to help people to break out of the bubble and see that. And I say this especially with foreign policy, right? Because if you don't know what that country is, or you've been taught to hate a certain country, you won't care what your country is doing there, right? Because you don't understand it. But if you did understand it, you would be appalled. You would be shocked. So, one example I can give you, just in the terms of media, you look at Vietnam. I mean, that was also heavily propagandized, but to a certain extent, you had reporters going there, and this is the first time in history that you had a televised war, right? And people were seeing that, and they're seeing the body bags coming home, and they're like, what is this? And the U.S. Army changed that real quick. They changed that real quick. What happens in Iraq, right? 2002, 2003, when they invade Iraq, where are the journalists? They're embedded with the soldiers. Well, much, much harder to criticize them. Much, much harder to say some real shit. Yeah, they're smart. They work that out very well. And they pick, the U.S. Army is picking and choosing who can come along, right? It's much, much stricter, much more constrained than in Vietnam because they learned their lesson. You can't show people what's happening over there. I got a message from Jonas over here. He says, I'm Jonas. The naughty word was Iran. I was close. I guess Syria. I guess close. So I was going to ask whether you know and endorse Inside Iran by Media Benjamin or other popular history books. So, well, it depends, man, because, we were talking about Iran just the last time. I'm not familiar with this one. I'm not familiar with this particular book, but I am grateful to have received a couple of messages the last days from Iranians who have been very content. I think I told you this the other live stream. They've been very content with my coverage of the elections, the MEK, and certain things. So that's a badge of honor when you have people, because I don't speak Farsi. I've never been to Iran. So you have to be careful. You're covering someone's country, and to such detail, elections and, opposition groups. You have to come correct. You can't just start spouting bullshit like a lot of people do on Syria who think they're smart asses. You can't do that, right? Especially when you don't know the language. Of course, Iran is our neighbor, right? But nonetheless, I wanted to come correct, and I'm glad that I did. It's very humbling. I'm not familiar with this, so I'll have to check it out. But I think I know the author. I do think I know the author. Is she from? Hold on. Is she from Code Pink, or am I confused? Yes, she is. Yeah. I think we follow each other on Twitter. I'm not familiar with her book though, so I have more reason to check it out now. Thank you for the heads up. I'm always grateful for you guys giving me good heads up over here. Thank you for that. So don't worry, we're going to get into a lot more segments. We got a lot more coming now. I just want to finish reading your comments because I'm very grateful. Edward says the entire basis of the American two-party dictatorship is summed up in the old quotation. Quote, it's easier to fool people than to convince them that they've been fooled. Yes. Edward says, keep up the good work, Richard. Will do. And that I got nothing more to add. That's it. MTFFG says, much love from a Lebanese. You should talk with Caleb Maupin, a communist who supports Syrian Iran. I think I've watched some of his live streams before. I'm not too familiar with his work, but the thing is that I'm always happy to collaborate with new journalists or YouTubers or reporters. It's good, man, because I always ask you guys to drop suggestions. So I'm grateful for that. I'm not too familiar with Caleb's work, but I need to check him out. Thank you very much. Ahlan wa sahlan, right? Much love to Lebanon. Rob says, perhaps another nice coffee for Claudia for awesomeness, Richard. Love and strength to all suffering under war criminal insanity. Of course, by all means. That's going straight to Claudia. She knows it. And we got another one over here from Propagandasaurus Rex. That's a good name. Says, thumbs up from across the channel, the Netherlands. You should grow your European audience because your message should be heard here as well. I was thinking of doing that. And not just in English. I mean, right? So French and German. I think I'll start doing some things with that. I have some things in mind, and I wholeheartedly agree with you. And I'm always grateful to expand the audience. Right? No doubt. So thank you for that. All right. So let's get to the next segment. We got a lot to cover, man. We got a lot to cover. I'm excited. I'm so glad we're done with Pompeo. I cannot stand this man. Insufferable. Utterly insufferable. So, okay. Let's just get ready over here. And once again, I want to thank you very much. Look at this. We're at 418. This is absolutely incredible. We're at 418. 418 supporters on Patreon. I cannot believe that. Thank you so much. So if you want to support the show, you want to support anti-imperialist, independent journalists, this is the spot. Patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. Thank you so much. We're almost halfway to our goal. That is absolutely incredible, right? So you can support the show for $2 a month, whatever you want, man. You can just put in whatever number you want, and I'm grateful for everything. So thank you so much for that. All right, let's get to the next segment. Give me a sec. Oh, y'all ain't ready for this. Oh boy. Right. Hold on, I'm out of focus, man. Jimmy stole my shine. Give me a second. Jimi Hendrix stole my shine. There we go. He stole my shine. So, the FBI have uncovered a plot to kidnap an Iranian journalist, an Iranian-American journalist in Brooklyn. Oh boy. Let's take a look. Let's take a look at this.
The FBI says it was no movie plot, a secret 2-year effort by Iran to keep close tabs on this woman, Masih Alinejad, at her house in Brooklyn with the goal of kidnapping her.
I'm an Iranian journalist, activist, but to be honest, the government in Iran have different names for me.
She's an outspoken critic of the Iranian regime's human rights record, especially its treatment of women, an author with a big profile on social media. Federal prosecutors say these 4 men in Iran, operatives of its intelligence service, hatched a plot to snatch her off the street, hiring private investigators to watch and photograph her house, falsely telling them she owed money to a client in the Middle East. The FBI says it found this screenshot showing that one of the Iranian men even researched ways to spirit her away by boat. U.S. authorities were so concerned they moved her to safe houses for 8 months. A 5th person, a woman in California, is charged with helping move nearly $500,000 here from Iran to finance the plot. Iran's foreign ministry tonight calls the charges baseless and ridiculous, but the Justice Department says Iran has a history of dragging dissidents back home to be jailed or executed.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's
top
stories and breaking.
Really? Just Iran? Just Iran? So let's take a look, man. Let's take a look. This is from the DOJ. Look what they say here. As part of the kidnapping plot, the Farahani-led intelligence network also researched methods of transporting victim 1 out of the United States for rendition to Iran. They got stones to talk about rendition, really? Sadeghi, for example, researched a service offering military-style speedboats for self-operating maritime evacuation out of New York City and maritime travel from New York to Venezuela, a country whose de facto government has friendly relations with Iran. Khazain researched travel routes from Victim 1's residence to a waterfront neighborhood in Brooklyn, the location of Victim 1's residence relative to Venezuela, and the location of Victim 1's residence relative to Tehran. Oh, what? He was going to speedboat her from Brooklyn to Iran? Really? That's what they're saying. Victim 1's residence is Brooklyn. I mean, just the one to Venezuela is ridiculous enough. That is ridiculous enough on its own. Look at what Rania had to say, right? So she had to say over here that Brooklyn to Venezuela is about 2,000 miles. The speedboat would have run out of fuel after several hundred miles and would have needed to store extra fuel, which would be difficult given the passengers, military experts tell me. I mean, just look at this on Google Maps, right? Which is apparently what these kidnappers did. They went on Google Maps and they looked up the route. So I'm looking it up for you. There you go. It's correct. It's about 2,000 miles. Who believes this nonsense? And it's incredible because this journalist, her name is Masih Alinejad, okay? She's gone on virtually every single network, like CNN, you name it, man. It's ridiculous. If you look this up on, she's been everywhere. Look, Reuters, ABC, CBC, NBC, Good Morning America, Al Jazeera. This is all in the last day. And she posted a video on Twitter. Look at this. She says, I'm grateful to the FBI for foiling the Islamic Republic of Iran's intelligence ministry's plot to kidnap me. This plot was orchestrated under Rouhani. This is the regime that kidnapped and executed Ruh al-Azam. They've also kidnapped and jailed Yamshid Sharmat and many others. So, I mean, there's really lots of clips. I just want to play you a little bit of her being interviewed over here. I think this was a spot. Hold on.
California, live in Sweden. That's the nature of the Islamic Republic. And I want to actually ask all the leaders of the free world to understand that do not abandon Iranian people.
You have said that you are not just fighting for yourself. You just said a moment ago that you're not going to stop fighting. What would be the best possible outcome here?
I want to meet with President Biden. Look, I'm an American citizen. What is shocking here, that they did that in New York. That actually shows you that my brutal government actually challenging the U.S. authorities. And actually, it says you that the time when my government were trying to kidnap me here in America, the U.S. government was trying to deal with this government. And today they call this law enforcement. That breaks my heart.
Wow. So she's offended about Iran challenging the U.S. government in the U.S. Really? Remind me real quick, who orchestrated a coup in Iran in 1953? Heaven pray that it wasn't the United States and the UK, was it? No. Who's been kidnapping people in Europe? Who kidnapped Khalid al-Masri in 2004 in Macedonia and took him to Afghanistan and raped him and tortured him? That was Iran? Who's been kidnapping all these people? Who are these agents who run around Europe and the rest of the world kidnapping innocent men and raping and torturing them and sending them to Guantanamo Bay? That's Iran? Really? Because we have concrete proof. We have evidence that that's real. This, I have no clue. Now, don't get me wrong. If this, by some coincidence or some chance, is real, I mean, I feel very sorry for her. I don't think anyone should be harassed. Maybe someone else is harassing her. Maybe the FBI fed her a bunch of BS. I have no clue. Obviously, no one should be subjected to that. I just have a very difficult time believing this story because they say, in addition to the speedboat, look what they say over here. This from the Department of Justice, right? They say that this woman who's been arrested, so she's the only one who has actually been arrested. She's in California, right? While she is not charged with participating in the kidnapping conspiracy, she is alleged to have provided financial services that supported the plot and is charged with conspiring to violate sanctions against Iran, commit bank and wire fraud, and commit money laundering. She's also charged with structuring cash deposits totaling more than approximately $445,000. So you're telling me that Iran is under sanctions, but somehow they have the ability to move $500,000 for some journalist? $500,000. I mean, if they can do that for just a journalist, then are they really under sanctions? If they have all this knowledge and know-how and personnel and contacts and ways to circumvent this targeting of their banking and oil sectors and their economy? They have so many dollars at their disposal. They have so many ways to move money inside the United States. This is incredible. Iran must be the first nation to to circumvent sanctions to such a degree. This is incredible. And the thing that they do with $500,000 is, it's not, trying to buy useful parts or, some kind of machines used for medical equipment, something to benefit their infrastructure. No. Let's kidnap a journalist in Brooklyn. Really? You know what this reminds me of? This smells like diarrhea. This reminds me of this story over here. Do you remember last year? It's not even a full year ago. It's not even a full year yet. So a few months ago, do you remember this story in Politico? Quote, officials say Iran weighing plot to kill U.S. ambassador to South Africa. The Islamic Republic is still looking to avenge the death of Qasem Soleimani. Okay, so let me break down to you what a pile of manure this story is. The U.S. ambassador to South Africa is this woman. Her name is Lana Marks. Do you want to know who Lana Marks is? She was appointed by Trump. She has zero experience as a diplomat. You know why? Because she don't need it to become the ambassador. She bought her ambassadorship. Marks was CEO and designer of Lana Marks, a fashion accessories brand which specializes in exotic leathers and is known for creating some of the world's most expensive handbags. So basically, you're telling me, look, I can tell you just straight up, there is no way on earth, in any country, that you enter the diplomatic corps and start as an ambassador. That is impossible. This is unheard of. She bought her ambassadorship. And it says over here that she's also a friend of Trump's and Mar-a-Lago, right? So take a look at this. Right? Marks had known Trump for more than 2 decades and was a member of his Mar-a-Lago club. It's just connections. So they're telling you here, last year, that Iran wanted to kidnap and assassinate the U.S. ambassador to South Africa, who is a fucking handbag designer, and that this handbag designer is equal to General Soleimani. What a load of nonsense. Who believes this crap? Like, they're not even trying. You're equating one of the most important men in the Middle East to a fucking handbag designer who bought her job as an ambassador from Donald Trump? Who believes this crap? Look, it was also in the Jerusalem Post. Of course it was, right? It was in all of the papers. And then what do we have here? Oh, South Africa says insufficient evidence of Iranian plot to assassinate U.S. ambassador. Oh, you don't say. You don't say. And do you remember when they also said, oh, look, the Iranians, they're putting bounties on American troops, and just like the Russians are, allegedly. And they had Chinese bounties as well. And I told you there would be chocolate bounties and Syrian bounties. That was also nonsense. There was no evidence for that. Absolutely no evidence. All right? Remember this? U.S. intelligence memo admits there is no evidence of Russian payment of bounties to Afghans for killing U.S. soldiers. Same for the Iranians. No evidence. So if they're making up something absurd like this, that they're going to literally kill a U.S. official who is a handbag designer, you don't think that they would make this crap up as well, the Americans? I'm not saying she necessarily made it up, but it is far-fetched, and it's probably the FBI who made it up. I don't know. That's just it's a logical conclusion when you see that the United States is constantly making up bogus stories like this. Absolutely absurd stories like this. Here's what Sayyid Mohammed Marendi said, great friend of the show. He said, Iran is so lucky to have these fools leading U.S. and EU regime change operations alongside a host of Shah's princesses, quote-unquote liberation armies, and God knows what else. They make Don Quixote look smart. But those who pay these people taxpayer money make them look brilliant. And look at this. Reuters is mimicking U.S. regime change propaganda. Reuters is mimicking U.S. regime propaganda. It's impressive that Iran can interfere in U.S. elections and plan arrests for agents inside the U.S. The only problem is U.S. officials are bad at fiction. A 2,000-kilometer speedboat ride from New York to Caracas for a silly goose. The U.S. can do better. They really can do better. Come on. You're not even trying here. This is insulting. But you know who she's friends with? Our little friend over here, Masi. She's friends with Mike Pompeo, right? He just loves Iran, right? He's a real friend of Iran. He does nice things to Iranians. He starves them. He prevents them from importing medical supplies. He cuts them off from the world economy. He targets the oil sector, their banking sector. Yeah, he's a really nice guy. He really wants the best for Iranians, right? What a standout guy. You know, look, I'm just throwing this out there, but if you are standing with Mike Pompeo, I'm trying to be diplomatic as possible. It's a poor choice of company, right? And just like Mohammed Marendi said, Professor Marendi, he mentioned these, Iran is meddling in the U.S. elections. We all know this is bullshit. So the United States has a pattern of making up the most preposterous claims. The CIA guy in Stockwell, he was telling you in the other video what they were doing about Cuba. They make up the most ludicrous accusations and put them in the media. And it's all nonsense. According to unnamed U.S. intelligence officials, apparently, supposedly, it appears as though you're full of shit. The reason that all these networks have brought this woman on, Masih, they brought her on to talk about the story is because it's good for their anti-Iranian propaganda. That's what it's about. You know, let's demonize Cuba. Let's demonize Iran. Let's demonize Venezuela. Let's demonize Syria. Let's demonize all these countries who happen not to bend the knee to Uncle Sam. What a coincidence, right? And you want to come here and pretend? Did you hear what that guy said on NBC, that Iran has a history of kidnapping dissidents? Really? What do you call what the U.S. is doing to Julian Assange? Julian Assange is a journalist, a real journalist, okay? You may call him a dissident as well, if you will. That doesn't change anything. The United States is trying to kidnap him. He's not American. He's not in the United States. He wasn't there when he published any of the things that they accuse him of publishing as being a crime. They're not crimes. What do you call that? Why are all these networks not talking about that? This is a long campaign. That's a long campaign. There's CIA plotting to discussing at the very least, discussing to potentially poison and kidnap him. They were discussing stealing his baby's diaper. They spied on him in the Ecuadorian embassy. They violated his right to due process. They violated the torture convention. Jesus Christ, I could sit here all night. What do you call that? You think that's a government that respects a free press? You can't come here and tell me, Iran, when the United States, you got two administrations in a row pursuing one of the worst indictments in modern history that literally criminalizes journalism. It criminalizes journalism. It's not about one person. It's for the whole field, right? The audacity of these people, right? Mike Pompeo specifically, what did he say? WikiLeaks is a hostile non-state intelligence service. That's what he thinks about journalists, right? That's what the mainstream media think about journalists. They don't cover this. They don't care because they're not journalists. And, they have the stones to talk about rendition. Dude, again, go and read about the torture programs, the rendition programs that the CIA had. The Americans even pressured successfully the Germans and Italians not to prosecute CIA agents who were caught kidnapping and torturing their own fucking citizens. Like these governments won't even stand up for their own citizens because of how much pressure the United States is putting on them and how corrupt they both are. They won't even defend their own citizens. They let Uncle Sam just kidnap their citizens and do what they will. And you want to come here and tell me that these European and American powers are democracies and they don't kidnap and torture and do it to an extent that is absolutely unbelievable? They have entire programs dedicated to this. It's an international goddamn, conglomerate. Are you kidding me? And you want me to come believe this bullshit? Nah, son. I don't buy it. I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. Absolutely ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. So I want to point out something else for you guys. This one's good. You're going to like this one.
I want to bring in the mayor of Miami, Francis Suarez.
All right, dang it. I appear to have lost my goddamn tabs. It's okay. It's okay. I'll get to them in a second again. So I'm just going to read some of your comments. I'm just going to read you some of your comments in the meantime. All right. You guys are very kind. You've been very sweet and generous and humbling and flattering. So give me a second to pull them up because YouTube hides them somewhere in a cave. Over here, we got one from Pookie, New Jack City. And they say, don't forget their efforts to kidnap Edward Snowden. Of course not. We got one over here from Red. Red sent a thumbs up. Thank you very much, Red. Ali says, can't agree more with you as an Iranian. Keep up the great work. Thank you very much. Once again, that's very humbling, and I'm very grateful. I'm very grateful to have an international audience and to hear that it's good work, especially from the people whose country, whose beautiful country I'm talking about. Thank you so much. Over here, we got something from Neil. Neil, it's good to see you. He says, if you like the John Stockwell video, please check out Phil AG. I hope I'm saying that correctly. Same type of deal. Former company man. Company is the CIA. Man turned lefty. That is excellent, and I will definitely be checking that out. Maybe we can cover it in the next time. I really like this stuff, so thank you very much. Thank you, Neil. Also, we got... Oh, this is very good. This is very good. We got two new people who signed up on Patreon. We got Anarella and Adrian. Thank you so much. We're at 420, right? We got 420 patrons right now. This is absolutely incredible. I'm gonna play a crab dance just for you guys. Put your hands together. Let's go, baby.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line, claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch out.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي. We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Hey! Look at that. Absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. I'm humbled. I don't know what to say, man. I'm absolutely humbled. Check this out. This is incredible. I'm pulling up the Joe Biden thermometer. You know where he's sniffing the thermometer? Whatever it is. Look at this, man. Absolutely incredible. 420, the magic number, according to some. This is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for your support. I'm very grateful. I cannot believe this, man. Look how far we've come. Look how far we have come. So that's 420 supporters on Patreon. I'm so grateful. If you guys would like to support independent media, this is the spot. If you want correct foreign policy, this is the spot. You want international affairs, this is the spot. You know this. You already know this. So this is the spot, man. Patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. Thank you so much. I'm very grateful. And right now we're at 420. Maybe we can hit our goal, get halfway to our goal at 425. Let's see. And of course, there's a crab dance. Every time someone joins up, we play a crab dance. So thank you so much for that. And again, I don't care. I'm grateful for whatever you guys choose to support the channel with. So it's all up to you. All right, let's move on to the next segment, baby. We got a lot of stuff to cover. This is incredible. This is incredible what we got going on over here. But it's not going to be surprising if you've been paying attention. All right? It's not going to be surprising if you've been paying attention. So, let's pull this up. All right. Good. Right. Where do we begin? So, apparently the White House is working with Facebook to compile lists of people who spread misinformation, which conveniently, they do not specify what exactly that could entail. Although we have an idea, right? So I'm going to play you a clip over here. This is from the White House spokesperson, Jen Psaki. and she goes through it. She'll break it down for you. All right, let's take a look.
With these social media platforms, and those engagements typically happen through members of our senior staff, but also members of our COVID-19 team. Given, as Dr. Murthy conveyed, this is a big issue of misinformation, specifically on the pandemic. In terms of actions, Alex, that we have taken, or we're working to take, I should say, from the federal government, we've increased disinformation research and tracking within the Surgeon General's office. We're flagging problematic posts for Facebook that spread disinformation. We're working with doctors and medical professionals to connect to connected medical experts who are popular with their audiences with accurate information and boost trusted content. So we're helping get trusted content out there. We also created the COVID Community Corps to get factual information into the hands of local messengers. And we're also investing, as you all have seen, in the president's, the vice president's, and Dr. Fauci's time in meeting with these.
Okay, what the hell is going on? What the hell is going on? Did you hear what she said? Did you hear what she said? The White House is working with Facebook to look at disinformation. Now, could someone please tell me on what planet that makes sense? Apparently this one. This is yesterday, huh? Right? So here's what she says today. She goes further. Look what she says here.
And providing for Facebook or other platforms to measure and publicly share the impact of misinformation on their platform and the audience it's reaching. Also with the public, with all of you, to create robust enforcement strategies that bridge their properties and provide transparency about rules. You shouldn't be banned from one platform and not others for providing misinformation out there.
Wow. So you see what's going on here? You see what's going on now? They're saying if you say something they don't like, right? Because I know YouTube has a problem with it. You heard what they have grievances with. I'm not going to say it because of the algorithm. Look at where we're at. They're censoring me from covering the topic because we know what happens. So if they say something you don't like in the field of medicine, right? They're working with Facebook to get rid of you. And not just that, but it's multiple platforms. So they want to deplatform you. That's what it's about, right? You remember when this happened with people like Alex Jones and Milo, whatever the hell his name is? I mean, these people are really, I could not disagree more with them. But people warned at the time, people who could foresee where this was going, is that this is beginning perhaps today with Alex Jones, but tomorrow who's next? We all know what happens once the state gets sweeping powers. Who do they go for? Who are the first people they go for? The leftists. Look at history. They always go for the left, the real left. I'm not talking about this American palava over here, this fucking fake-ass left. I'm talking about the real left. It doesn't matter. You get the point here. The state should not be doing crap like this. And how are they getting away with this? Oh, look, this guy's posting medical disinformation. Yeah, okay. What about when they said that, Press TV's website's going to be seized? Was that medical information? You saw what they did with Press TV? They banned Press TV on Facebook. They banned Press TV on Google. They banned Press TV on YouTube. They banned Press TV on its own website. The Biden administration came and seized their own fucking website. So where does this end? It's not just about medical crap. It's already been political. It's already been political. Do you understand? Dude, I swear to God, sometimes I type presstv.com and I forget that they seized the website. I'm looking for something with my show and I forget they seized the website. And never mind all the other people's work they've taken. These people are disgusting authoritarians. They're disgusting authoritarians. This is blue MAGA. This is you remember how they were saying, oh, you got to vote for Biden because democracy is on the ballot. You got to vote out fascism. Trump is fascism. What the fuck is this? What do you call that? What do you call that when the goddamn state is going like this with corporations? And what are they doing? They're censoring people. And they say it's under the guise of public safety. Really? Was seizing Press TV also for public safety? They fucking lied. They lied. They came and said that this is to do with sanctions. And they said that Press TV is working for the IRGC, for the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, just making up the most insane shit. Wow. So I hope those people who thought they were getting a sweet deal from Biden are seeing now that this is a blue brand of authoritarianism. That's it. That's it. When you have the state getting together, getting in bed with corporations and doing this kind of shit, I mean, this is a hallmark of fascism. I think Glenn said that on Twitter. And I want to read you something else that Glenn said on Twitter, right? I want to show you something else. Because I could not agree more with this, honestly. I could not agree more. Who the fuck is the White House to be dictating who should and should not be banned from social media platforms, to keep lists of who they think are the spreaders of misinformation and then pressure companies they regulate to obey? This is pernicious shit. That's exactly what it is, man. Take a look at this.
A participant in the process would aid the effort.
And then, speaking of misinformation and the announcement from yesterday, for how long has the administration been spying on people's Facebook profiles looking for vaccine misinformation?
Well, that was quite a loaded and inaccurate question, which I would refute.
How?
Well, Peter, first of all, as you know, we're in a regular touch with a range of media outlets. Let me finish. As we are in regular touch with social media platforms. This is publicly open information, people sharing information online, just as you are all reporting information on your news stations.
But okay, so these 12 people who you have on a list, 12 individuals, do they know that somebody at the Surgeon General's office is going through their profile?
I'm happy to get you the citation of where that comes from. There's no secret list. I will tell you that these are people who are sharing information on public platforms on Facebook, information that is traveling, is inaccurate. Our biggest concern here, and I frankly think it should be your biggest concern, is the number of people who are dying around the country because they're getting misinformation that is leading them to not take a vaccine. Young people, old people, kids, children, this is all a lot of them are being impacted by misinformation.
The big concern, though, I think, for a lot of people on Facebook is that now this is Big Brother watching you.
They're more concerned about that than people dying across the country because of a pandemic where misinformation is traveling on social media platforms. That feels unlikely to me. If you have the data to back that up, I'm happy to discuss it.
About things that are on Facebook, I looked this morning.
Wow. Wow. Did you see what she said? Did you hear that? He's like, well, people are going to be worried now. They got Big Brother watching them, basically. And she's like, oh, really? They're more concerned with being under a surveillance state than they are with people dying around the country? Where have I heard this shit before? Where have I heard this before? Oh, that's right. George fucking Bush. What, do you support Saddam Hussein? Huh? What are you with the terrorists? Are you with the terrorists and the nuclear weapons? You hate America? Shut the fuck up. Accept the torture programs and the surveillance state. Be quiet. What do you want? People dying? You hate America? This is the oldest trick in the book. This is literally the oldest trick in the book. It just happens to be medical in this case and not political, right? What a pound of manure. Manure. Well done, you dunces. Well done, you dunces who were coming here like, oh my God, Donald Trump is a fascist. We got to vote for Joe Biden because democracy is on the ballot. You stupid fucking dunces, you cretins, you morons, you idiots. I would love to see your reaction if Joe fucking Biden came and took down your work from the internet. I'd love to see your reaction. I bet you'd be singing a different fucking tune then, wouldn't you? Or if you would like Joe Biden, breathing down your neck, no pun intended, given his behavior, breathing down your neck and watching you on Facebook. Are you okay with that as well? Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Misinformation. Who gets to decide what misinformation is? Who gets to decide that? Who gets to decide that? Spooks at the CIA? You trust them? They're a misinformation factory. Who gets to decide this? Joe Biden? Who decides what the threshold of misinformation is? Here they tell you it's the Surgeon General, I think they said, right? Because we're talking about medical things. Okay, but what about when it comes to their bullshit claims about election interference? And they're still pushing this, whether it's Iran or Russia, they're still pushing this. Joe Biden himself, before he got elected during the debates, said, I'm gonna get Iran for interfering in our elections. What does that mean? Oh, I know what that means. He comes and shuts down Press TV. He comes and shuts down 32 other news sites who are not even based in the United States for spreading disinformation. Fuck you, man. Screw you. Screw you. And screw anyone who defends this crap, because this has nothing to do with goddamn medical information. They're doing it politically as well. They've just been doing it under your nose and you don't know. I read to you the statement from the DOJ. Why did they shut down Press TV and others? They didn't just claim sanctions. They claimed that they were interfering and spreading disinformation. And they used that to steal my fucking work and the work of my colleagues. And you want to come here and tell me that this is okay? Go and screw yourself. If you were in my shoes, you'd be singing a different tune, wouldn't you? Very easy. The lesser of two evils. Go stick it up your ass. So this is very concerning. If you do not think this is concerning, I mean, I don't even know what to say to you. Can you just imagine, just please imagine for 1 second, if the Syrian president had said, I want Facebook to make a list of people who are saying X and Y, Z. Can you imagine if the Iranian president said that, or the Venezuelan president said that? You would never hear the end of it. It would be on the front fucking page of the New York Times. And you know that shit. You fucking know that. Because you got two sets of standards. You got one set of standards for the brown countries, the global south countries, the ones who don't kiss America's ass, this group of countries. And then you have another set of standards for America and its friends. Right? It's okay when you have the blue brand of fascism or authoritarianism. That's okay. That's okay. At least it's not Trump. Right? Then they can go back to brunch. Fucking boutique left. Just imagine if the Cuban president had done that. Oh shit, no need to imagine, because look at what we got here. Do you remember when Joe Biden just yesterday is calling Cuba a failed state? And why did he say that? Because they cut off the internet. So apparently, look at this. Hold on, let me scroll down over here. President Biden says Cuba is a failed state and calls communism a threat. Biden calls Cuba a failed state, considers sending internet source for the Cuban people. So now when Cuba cuts off the internet, oh, this is authoritarian. Look, it's a regime. It's a communist dictatorship. They're trying to silence their population. Oh my God, we got to go bomb them quick. Oh, but when the Biden administration is also deciding who can say what, and then saying we're going to deplatform you everywhere, that's okay. When the Biden administration is shutting down foreign news sites, that's okay. I didn't hear any of you fucking bozos and little smartasses making a ruckus about that. Matter of fact, I think I'm one of the only ones. I don't know anyone who made a ruckus about that. People should be fucking outraged. Unbelievable, man. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable, honestly. They just let them get away with this. They just let them get away with this. I cannot believe this, honestly. I really cannot. Remember this? You remember this over here? Another crucial point. This is Glenn. Another crucial point. You don't have to imagine or speculate that maybe the White House will start abusing this misinformation claim to censor content politically damaging to them. They already did it when Democrats, media, and tech monopolies censored the Biden archive based on this CIA lie that the Hunter Biden story is Russian disinformation. Exactly what I'm telling you. Exactly what I'm telling you. They're using this politically. They shut down my work and the work of my colleagues because we're anti-imperialist, because we're adversarial to their foreign policy, because we expose the United States bullshit and the UK's bullshit and all their friends. Because we call them out. They shut us down. They shut us up because they don't want people accessing this media, especially in English, although they shut down Arabic sources too, right? And they said, oh, it's disinformation. And they use Trump sanctions, right? So much for being different than Trump. Oh my God. I don't even have the words anymore. I don't even have any words anymore. Really. If you are not woken up by this, I don't know what will. Because, unfortunately, people are very fucking racist, it's very unfortunate. You have some people who don't understand, who don't appreciate when this happens, when these kinds of injustices happen to certain countries, right? So when it happens to Iran, they maybe don't say anything. They don't give a shit. They're silent about it. But when it happens to them in America, oh, now they'll give a shit. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Maybe it's selfishness. Who knows, man? But people need to wake up. This is crazy. This is absolutely nuts. Just imagine if a president in the axis of evil, as George Bush calls them, imagine if a president of one of those countries did that. You think that we saw, you would see every one of these stupid YouTubers and fake ass pundits doing, oh, look, they're so authoritarian in Syria. Oh my God, look at what they're doing in Cuba. The CIA fucked my brain. Well done. Well done. Well done. This is really phenomenal. This is really, this is the quintessential indoctrination of how to be a goddamn sheep in the United States. You think that every other country is authoritarian and they're all regimes and they're dictatorships and your country doesn't do anything? You think the UK is any better? You think European powers are any better? They're masters at this. They're masters at this. And they do it right under your nose. I'm sick of it. I'm really sick of it. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Putain. Yo, I want to drink something and I'm not going to show, the brand. So I'm going to just switch this over here. Hold on. We can't do no endorsements. 1 second. You guys have been sending some questions. I'll read them in a second. Just let me drink something, man. I'm really pissed off at these clowns. Oh, Biden is the lesser two evils. Shut the fuck up, man. I'm sick of it. They still won't get it. They still can't admit that they were wrong. They still can't admit that this is not good, that this is unacceptable. They can't do it, right? They're always going to make excuses for it. All right. Let me read your comments, man. This one is from Ali. It says, all the 4 guys called kidnappers are in Iran now. Why didn't the FBI wait until they come back to the U.S. to arrest them? The FBI used to be better than this. Actually, that's an excellent point. I apologize that I didn't bring it up when I was doing this segment. That's something that I wanted to raise, is that they say... they were saying that these 4 guys in the indictment, the Iranians, they're at large. You mean they're in Iran? Like, they're at home? Why didn't they arrest them when they were in the U.S.? If they're guilty of a kidnapping plot, or you allege that they're conspiring to kidnap someone. The only woman that they found is apparently laundering $500,000 in California. Like as if Iran is just swimming in foreign currency. I don't think people understand countries that are under sanctions like Iran, like Syria, even Lebanon, man. Lebanon is hurting. They don't have foreign currency. They don't have these dollars to just go and swim around in them. They don't have time and energy and resources to go after some journalist in Brooklyn. Can you not? Do people not understand this? The only thing that this does is propaganda. It's just to paint this picture that, oh, look, these countries, they're so barbaric. They're such dictatorial regimes. Oh my God, look at them. They're so uncivilized. They don't respect journalists. Meanwhile, they're screwing Assange. They lock up whistleblowers all the time. They go and kidnap people all over Europe. And then they have the stones to lecture about freedom and democracy. Get the hell out of here, man. Enough. Have some shame, the clowns who are still buying this nonsense and drinking this Kool-Aid. Have some goddamn shame, man. Wake up. Grow up. Sorry, I wasn't trying to yell at you. I'm just... Ali, thank you for raising that point. We got a tip over here from Sid. It says, you express our anger. I goddamn hope so, because I hope there are other people who feel the same. It's really frustrating. Steve says, weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. Weapons of mass destruction. Right? That was, I don't know how many of you had the misfortune of watching the Iraq War. Well, of course, the real ones who misfortune are the ones who lived it. Let's not mince words. But my point is that the propaganda that was unleashed in the lead up, it's unbelievable. If you saw it, you remember it, right? It's crazy. So I find this extremely disturbing that people still buy into this crap afterwards, whether it's OPCW in Syria, whatever it is, right? I find it really, really disturbing. It's really concerning. Dallas of Oz says, damn, you are fired up, bro. Thank you, Dallas of Oz. I really appreciate that. This is on Rockfin, by the way. We got 30 people watching on Rockfin. Guys, let me just check. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think, if I'm not mistaken, now on Rockfin, we're at 6,000 followers. That's pretty good. Or 6,000 subscribers. Because I've told you before, Rockfin is free. It's an alternative to YouTube, but we need to grow it so we're not dependent on YouTube, speaking of censorship. Right? What? We're at 12,000? Oh my goodness. Yo, I don't even know what to say, man. Wow. Wow. I did not know it was 12,000 already. Holy moly, that is absolutely incredible. Wow. I thought it was 5,000, 6,000. I don't know what to say. I'm taken aback. Thank you so much. This is incredible. This is incredible. So, again, here's the address for those of you who are not signed up. It's totally free. It doesn't cost you a penny. And it's good to have a backup to YouTube, right? So, here we go. Rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. ROKFIN.com/RichardMedhurst. Making an account is free. You need to make an account to watch the videos and watch the live streams, but it's free. It doesn't cost you anything, right? You can see I'm live right here. These are all the other segments. Everything is up here. It's the same as YouTube, right? Except there's no censorship. There's no ads. It's perfect, right? And it's not just me. You got all the other favorite channels on here as well. And I always take the time to plug it because it's not just for me, man. This is for all of Lefty Media. Look. You got all these other channels that you guys follow here. Lee Camp. You got Ryan Grimm now. I think he might have joined lately. I see Michael Tracy. I see Nico House, Jimmy Dore, Convo Couch. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's lots of people here, man. Graham Elwood. This is great. So definitely go join. And you can support if you want. It's like $10 a month, but it's not just me. It will be every single channel. So it's like Netflix or politics or something. That's the best way I heard to explain it, and I think it's pretty accurate. So anyway, I'm gonna continue reading your very kind donations over here. You guys are very kind, so thank you for that. Give me a second. It's loading. Skinny Pompeo has been very busy. Skinny Pompeo meaning Blinken. He's been very busy lately. So Shima says, clueless people always say America and France have nothing to do with Haiti suffering and that the ills of the Haitian people are their own fault. Yeah, of course they would say that because it's always convenient. Look, man, let's make something clear. Let's make something clear. Every country in the world has its own shortcomings. Every government has its own shortcomings. But you cannot look at countries that have been colonized, that have been exploited, enslaved, plundered, and then purposely choose to discard and hide how this plundering, how this slavery, how this colonization has held them back. What people, I mean, you know, these terms like third world, I mean, now they say developing country, right? That's so, you have developed and developing countries. Why are there some countries developed and some that are undeveloped or developing? What held them back? You know, people talk about decolonization. We haven't experienced decolonization. It's still going on. How can you talk about decolonization when Iraq is still occupied, Syria is still occupied, you know, Palestine is occupied, Africa is still occupied, Latin America is still occupied? How can you talk about that? No. That's not how it works, man. That's not how it works. It's you know, they say it started in 45, but it's still ongoing. And they do it through different mechanisms, but the relationship is the same. It's still exploitation, fundamentally. It's still exploitation. You still have multinationals that belong to the same European powers. What a coincidence, right? Whether they're French, stealing uranium, you know, in Africa, or they're controlling the monetary policy of a dozen countries, or the British and their multinationals, BP. These are all companies that are complicit in colonialism and imperialism and plundering, and they just continue to do it, but under different guise. That's it. So it's equally true when we talk about Haiti, when there's a long colonial past, and they're still doing it. They're still trying to screw that country. That's my whole point, right? It's not just in the past; it's still present. They're still trying to screw it, and people would love, especially the imperialists. They want to take your attention away from that. Be like, but it's the regime's fault. And they say the same thing about Cuba, right? It's not the embargo; it's the regime who's incompetent. No, dude, let me explain something to you. Even with Syria, right? Syria has a big corruption problem, right? And again, this is the difference between the dumb fucks who repeat the propaganda about Syria and people who have legitimate criticisms, right? Because if you come here and say, chemical weapons, I mean, this is not a real criticism. This is just something that you heard on TV. But let me just go back to my point. Syria has a real corruption problem, right? What do you think sanctions do? They make corruption worse. You literally have dozens of black markets that spring up for various industries or services or whatever it is. It makes corruption worse. So when they come here and they tell you, oh, we're imposing sanctions on this country or an embargo to change the behavior of the regime, whatever the fuck that means, like as if it's their right to do that, right? It's nonsense. You're just making everything worse. Not to mention that the most important disaster, the most important result from this is what? Is that people suffer. There's no food, there's fuel shortages, there's electricity shortages, you name it. So this is very important to point out. This is very important to point out. Give me a second, man. I'm trying to refresh this page over here, make sure I got everybody. And there we go. So thank you very much, Red, for your super chat. I'm very grateful for that. And I think I got everybody. I hope I got everybody. We also got one on Rockfin over here. We got one from Nero. It says, would love to see you have Salom MC on for Discourse. Brilliant Iranian hip-hop artist. Did some stuff with Hitchka's work with Code Pink as well. Again, I'm always grateful for you guys' recommendations. I'm building up a list of people to work with, collaborate with, and look up. So thank you for that. I'm writing this down. Thank you. And thank you for the support, Nero. I'm very grateful. And glad it's on Rockfin too. So I'm really grateful to see that. All right, guys. So one more time, if you guys have any questions, just shoot. You can just scan these QR codes for PayPal or Venmo, whatever. I'm grateful for all your support. Thank you for keeping this anti-imperialist channel going. Thank you for allowing me to do what I do. I'm very grateful. I'm very flattered by your kind words. And again, this is the spot for foreign policy, man. You're not going to get it right on Syria, going to people with no idea about Syria, about the Middle East. No. Everyone thinks they're an expert. They're not. They're not qualified to talk about this. By no means, no one is perfect. And I'm not saying that, but there's really a gap, right? A gap of information, unfortunately. So let's come correct. Let's support people what they're good at, right? Whatever it is. And thank you, guys. We're at 420 on Patreon. I cannot believe that. That is absolutely staggering. Thank you so much. If you'd like to support the show, patreon.com/RichardMedhurst. And again, there's no limit or minimum. You can do it for $2, $5. It doesn't matter. I'm grateful for everything. Thank you so much. And yeah, last but not least, make sure you join the Telegram, which is also free. It's just so you get live stream notifications. YouTube, I mean, I'm sure some of you know this. YouTube does not notify all of you when we go live. I don't know how it is, how many of you have the bell notification on or whatever. Right? I'm not sure how many of you have the bell notification on. I hate saying this cliche YouTube thing, but please hit the bell icon, especially with this channel and others like it, because when it comes to politics, YouTube is burying, anti-imperialist, adversarial, pro-Palestinian channels and journalists in a cave. So I don't know if you're getting notification when we go live. And just to be safe, make sure you go join the channel on Telegram. It's t.me/Medhurst. That's the URL. And I'll put it below. And you get a notification whenever I post a video, I go live, write an article. There you go. I think it's worth it. And yeah, it's free. It don't cost you nothing. So thank you, Dallas of Oz, for the other tip. I'm very grateful. I see it now. Thank you very much. I'm just making sure I read everybody. Steve Jacob says, Hillary was proud of exporting American democracy to Libya. Of course she was. Do you remember, Hillary Clinton when they told her that Gaddafi was dead? And dead is putting it mildly. He was sodomized and raped and lynched. They lynched him. So their idea of bringing democracy to Libya was lynching its leader. And then Hillary jumps for joy, right? What did she say again? She said, we came, we saw, he died. I mean, this is, I don't even know what to say. It's disgusting. Libya, despite its shortcomings, whatever they may be, was the most prosperous nation in Africa. Gaddafi, being a pan-Arabist and then a pan-Africanist, he was trying to move Africa away from Western influence to make it independent. These Americans cannot stand this. The West cannot stand this. This is the name of the game. If you try to be independent, the Americans will come shit on you. The Europeans will come shit on you. This is what they've been doing for centuries. Why do you think that there is a list of countries that are always targeted in propaganda, in the media? You turn on the television, oh, Iran, Syria, Venezuela. Why do you think they go after these countries, man? And of course, Libya being one of them. And they don't. It's because these countries say no. No, we don't want your banks. We don't want your corporations. We don't want your multinationals. We don't want your State Department dictating what policies we can have. We don't want your IMF telling us what loans and what conditions are going to be imposed on us. Goodbye. We're doing things our way. Be that independently or with Russia, whatever it is. It's just no. And the United States, hold on, come here a second. The United States then, they start the propaganda to justify the war, right? Oh, look at these human rights abuses. Oh, look at the torture, as if the United States is not the biggest, human rights abuser and disseminator of torture. They were literally training right-wing terrorists in Central Latin America in torture. They're experts at this. They wrote the handbook on torture, literally. Oh, look at this country. He's a dictator, the regime, right? So one day, Bashar al-Assad is having tea at Buckingham Palace, and then the next day he's a dictator, and he's running a regime. That's weird. Why? I don't know why the Queen was sitting down with him then, why she had him for tea. Why did Tony Blair receive him at number 10 Downing Street? It's so weird, right? It's so weird. Why was Donald Rumsfeld shaking Saddam Hussein's hand and selling him chemical weapons? And then all of a sudden, oh, it's a regime. We got to go in. We got to topple him right now. Right now. So from one day to the next, when the agenda changes, right, then they start going after you. When you start becoming too independent, you start getting too, big-headed in their view, because for them, being independent, being sovereign, this is a crime. To a colonizer, of course, it's a crime. This is seen as, how dare you? How dare you not succumb to my boot? How dare you not, obey my corporations, my banks, etc. This is a sin. And this is what Cuba has done for 60 years. Cuba has said, screw you. We're not going to be some Yankee colony. Screw you. Go away. Right? And Cuba did this right under the Americans' nose. Right under their fucking nose. So when you have all these warmongers going on television, like the mayor of Miami, Suarez, or you have Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio, like these bloodthirsty fucking neocons coming on and saying, look, Cuba's just 90 miles off the Florida Keys. Let's go. It's so close. We can finally give it freedom. They mean freedom for their corporations to turn it into a brothel. Yeah, it's 90 miles off the coast. And despite that, it's given the finger to the Americans the whole time. Right? 60 plus years. That's why it's under an embargo. That's why there's no difference between Republican and Democrat, because they're all colonizers. They're imperialist scum. They want to turn Cuba into what it was under Batista. They want to turn Cuba back into what it was before Castro, before the July 26th movement. They want to turn it back into an American brothel, right? They want to open up casinos. They want their corporations to control everything. And they play dirty. What do you think they did to Guatemala, right? In 1954. Oh, you want to nationalize the fruit? Oh, you're going to put a dent in the profits of United Fruit Corporation? We're coming to screw you. We're going to come depose you. Democratically elected president. We don't care. You're going out. It's over. And the year before, Iran's Prime Minister, Mossadegh, he nationalizes the oil fields. The Americans, the British go, what? The British say, those are our oil fields, boy. We built them. Yes, at Abadan. British oil fields. Yes, fine engineering, boy. Can't have that. So they come in and they coup him. They get rid of him. This is a sin. This is an unforgivable crime. When you take back your resources, oh, Uncle Sam is coming for you. And he's bringing his friends. This is what it's about. It's about independence. It's about sovereignty versus people want to control you. Imperialists, colonizers, bastards. That's what it's about. This is the fundamental struggle. And Cuba, Venezuela, Syria, Iran, they don't exactly have, the same political system. Is that these countries don't necessarily have the same political system. What do they have in common? Why are they targeted? Because they stand up to the West. That's what it's about. They won't give their resources. They won't do what they're told. That's what it's about. And this is what happened with al-Assad. This is why they were trying to court him, right? That's why you had Prince Charles photographed with al-Assad. That's why you had Tony Blair, the Queen of England. They're trying to court him, right? So his father had passed away and he becomes the president. He wasn't supposed to be the president. It's supposed to be his brother. He died in a car accident. He's an eye doctor and he becomes the president. And so they think they can court him. Like, let's turn Syria into like a kind of a Western pawn, We'll ease the tension off of Israel. We'll have like a good relations with a country there where we can kind of, Syria, I don't need to explain anymore. It's a centerpiece of the Middle East. in every way imaginable, economically, politically. It's a centerpiece, right? It's the key to the Middle East. So they think that they can coordinate. It doesn't work out, right? And you've seen the leaks from WikiLeaks talking about this in 2006. Already in 2006, in the U.S. Embassy in Damascus, in Syria, the cables back to D.C., they're typing out, oh, look, we found these weaknesses about the government. We can use this to exploit Bashar al-Assad's circle, etc. They're already planning this in 2006, and people want to come along and say, oh, it's a revolution in 2011. Habibi, there are people who want a revolution, sure thing, but they ain't do it alone. Uncle Sam is involved in this, not just on day one. He's involved since before it even happened, years ago. All right? And they've been trying to build this axe. You look at Afghanistan, look at Iran, look at Iraq, Syria, Lebanon, Palestine. It's literally one axe of influence they've been trying to build. And even now when they're pulling out of Afghanistan, I mean, we don't even know if they're pulling out their CIA spoofs. We don't even know if they're really getting out of there 100%. Where are the contractors? There's no mention of that. And they're going to have Turkey take over. Turkey, a NATO country. So you're still going to have a NATO presence. But to make it more digestible, they picked the only majority Muslim country in NATO, right? But in any case, the point here is that people think that all the United States didn't gain anything in Afghanistan. That's not true. That's not true. The thing that they've gained is they established a thorn in the side of Iran, right? You got Iran to the west. You got Russia to the north. You got China to the east. I mean, they've established a thorn in the side of all these countries. That's what Afghanistan has always been about. And of course, not to mention, Afghanistan has a vast amount of natural resources and minerals and you name it. If you go and look at this is very interesting, of course, right? Because the Taliban's number one source of income, of revenue rather, is what? It's opium. And the second one is, of course, these blue stones whose names I've forgotten, shamefully. But my point is that after the invasion, poppy growth explodes. Right under the occupation. It's weird. In any case, they've been trying for decades. They've been trying for so long to maintain an axe of influence here, right? Because the hypocrisy is staggering, right? Do you remember the Cuban Missile Crisis? What did they say? How dare Cuba bring missiles right under our nose and threaten our borders? But it's okay for America to do that to Iran? It's okay for America to do that to Iran from both Afghanistan and also from the sea in the Persian Gulf? It's okay for America to put aircraft carriers there? Dude, Biden and Trump were literally flying nuclear bombers nearby. What is that? That's not a threat. No. They call it a show of force, posturing, right? So once again, you have two sets of standards for the imperialists. You have one set of standards for the imperialists and one for everyone else. So when America threatens a country and flies nuclear bombers overhead to flex, essentially, right? That's posturing. It's a show of force. But when Cuba puts missiles on its territory to defend itself from an invasion, you have to keep in mind this is barely, what is it, a little over a year after Bay of Pigs, after the United States tried to coup them and sent an army of exiles. Oh, that's a threat. You have a Cuban Missile Crisis. It's something that everyone has to learn at school because just of how significant it is. Really? Why don't we learn about the Soleimani crisis when Trump assassinated General Soleimani? That's definitely a crisis. That's definitely an act of war. It's a way bigger act of war, right? Why don't we learn about all the things that the Americans have done? Doesn't matter. Because the imperialists do one thing and everyone else has to succumb. Everyone else has to obey. In every domain, politically, in rhetoric, in discourse, economically, you name it. This is bullying. This is oppression. So the question here is not, oh, are these countries perfect? No, the question here is, why is there so much focus on them? Why is it you turn on the television and they're always talking about the same countries? Even the people who claim to be on the left and claim to be anti-imperialists, why are they always focused on the same countries? They claim that, oh, yeah, this is about, they claim to care about press freedoms. They claim to care about democracy and socialism and all these nice things. Yes, well, why don't you talk about Saudi Arabia? Why are you never talking about U.S. allies? Isn't that weird? I don't hear you talking about Israel that much. I don't hear you talking about Colombia or Turkey. But you sure think you're an authority on Syria. You sure think you're an authority on Iran. You sure think you're an authority on Cuba and Venezuela, and all these countries have been targeted with the same damn playbook. And you're very smart. You're very good at pointing out their shortcomings. Why don't you point out the shortcomings of U.S. allies, which are far greater in scope and size? Indoctrination, that's why. because they've been taught since birth to hate a certain list of countries, a certain group of countries who challenge U.S. hegemony, who challenge Western imperialism, right? So in their eyes, the crimes of these countries are far greater. But that's not reality, is it? So, thank you guys very much. Thank you guys very much. Oh, we got a good question over here. This is from DC. It says, can you compare or contrast the Ba'ath parties, the Hizb al-Ba'ath of Syria and Iraq in terms of their respective domestic policies? At least a brief synopsis. This is a bloody good question. I'm going to do you one better. The video is already on the channel. It's right there. Go open the interviews playlist right here on the channel. And I talked exactly about this issue with Nick Maniaci, or his name on YouTube is Flame of Liberation. Exactly about this, the differences between Iraq and Syria. And we went into detail. It's extremely interesting. So even I learned some things. And really, I mean, great conversation. And we covered exactly this. Because just for those who don't know, you know, the thing is with Iraq and Syria, you know, Saddam Hussein and Bashar al-Assad, or Hafiz al-Assad, before, they're from the Ba'ath party, right? Hizb al-Ba'ath. Okay? So the Ba'ath party, Hizb al-Ba'ath, its foundation is what? It's Arab socialism, anti-imperialism, pan-Arabism. Okay? These are the foundations of the party. Now, how do they differ? Because this is a very hot topic, right? Iraq and Syria, they're not the same, according to historians, according to the people who've seen them. Now, you know, the Ba'ath Party was founded by Michel Aflaq, right? And he's a Syrian Christian. Michel Aflaq. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. I forget if it's with a kaf or a qaf. I think it's Michel Aflaq. Anyway, he's a Syrian Christian, and he creates this ideology which is rooted in anti-imperialism, in pan-Arabism, and it's a secular ideology, right? So all the Arab countries should unite to oppose imperialism, because you have to remember what we're talking about. You have to remember what period we're in. You know, they talk about decolonization in 1945. It's by no means complete, but this is a period where, you know, the French have been occupying Syria, right? The British occupying Palestine, Iraq, Egypt. So these countries are traumatized, and rightfully so, because before that they had the Ottomans as well. So they're very, very traumatized by centuries and centuries of colonialism. So these nationalist, anti-imperialist movements, this is the resistance to colonialism. This is the resistance to imperialism. It doesn't have the same meaning that it does in other contexts, okay? So this movement is born. And then you have both a Ba'ath party in Iraq and a Ba'ath party in Syria, because the whole concept is that you unite these countries, right? You would get, hypothetically, you would get a Ba'ath party elected in every country, and then they would all come and unite with each other, and you would have a pan-Arab thing. And this actually, I mean, in Egypt, you didn't have that, you know, Abdel Nasser was not a Ba'athist, but you did have a unison between Syria and Egypt for a while, from 1958 to 71, I believe, although it lasted a little shorter than that, right? And there are various criticisms. It's because, you know, the Egyptians were far too imposing, and you know, basically they weren't on an equal footing. That's what they say, right? So Egypt had a much stronger role, even though there's supposed to be one country, Syria and Egypt, the United Arab Republic. But Egypt had a dominant role. In any case, in Iraq, you have the Ba'ath Party, and Saddam Hussein is its most notable leader, right? And in Syria, you have Hafiz al-Assad and now Bashar al-Assad. What the Americans did when they invaded Iraq in 2003, what's this bastard's name again? I keep forgetting his last name. It's Paul something. Paul... he's the special envoy. What does he do? De-Baathification, right? Paul Bremer. There we go, Paul Bremer. So Paul Bremer is sent by George Bush to Iraq after the invasion. And what does Paul Bremer do? He dissolves the Ba'ath Party. He says the Ba'ath Party is null and void. That's it. This is de-Baathification. The problem is that in Iraq, it's not like Syria. In Iraq, everyone is a member of the Ba'ath Party. When I say everyone, I mean, we're talking about teachers, you know, anyone who's doing in public service, they're all members of the Ba'ath Party, right? You have an enormous amount of men that are suddenly out of work, right? That are there without a job. And not just men, but, you know, the breadwinners and just everyone who's participating in public service, teachers, you name it, they're all out of work. Because that's how it was tied in. With Syria, it's different. With Syria, you don't have the same kind of rates of membership and so forth. Now, the problem is that this is not just, bad because people are out of work, but it just shows you again how the Americans came into Iraq without a plan. Again, I mean, of course, they had one plan, which is to to break it and to control its oil, its resources, and to create a base. They're still there. They're still in Iraq to this day, 20 years later. Almost 20 years later now, right? It's an occupation. There is no plan. The plan is to occupy. That's it. But they have no plan for the Iraqis, right? Who they claimed, we're going to come deliver democracy. We're going to come deliver infrastructure. This is all bullshit. It's all bullshit. So in any case, this is just one. I'm just giving you one tiny difference between how between the Ba'ath Party in Syria and Iraq. But you should really go and watch this video that I did with Nick. I think he breaks it down quite eloquently. There's a lot of differences in economic policies as well. And, there you go. I'll just leave it at that. I'm just looking very quickly at... it's a great question, though. I'm just looking very quickly that we're over 12,000 on Rockfin. This is absolutely phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. So there you go. I'm very grateful for that. DC says, thanks for that bit of insight. I'll check it out. I hope you find it to your liking. I hope you find it informative. I think everyone should watch it because, there's not enough about Syria. There's not enough about Iraq. It's just, it's good to dive into the history of it. And I'm grateful for your question. Thank you very much. So we have all right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, thank you for supporting the show. I'm going to leave the thing up right here. If you want to... Oh, wow. Hold on a second. We got several people who just signed up on Patreon. We got Jasper and we got Monica. Are we at 422 right now? This is incredible. Y'all put your hands together. It's the crab dance right now.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard. And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Thank you for Iron Dome, which is a technical marvel.
والله انتوا كلاب بصراحة يعني. ماشي نشتغل عادي.
We lied, we cheated, we stole.
Why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
You can really hear the anger in that guy's voice, right? Oh man, that was epic. That was really epic. That Zoom call from last year, I loved it. In any case, I just want to say thank you so much to each and every one of you for letting me be able to do what I do and giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much. And I'm very grateful for your support. Even just liking and sharing a video, this all counts and helps to go against the algorithm. So thank you so much. I'm very grateful. I'll just leave the screens up now. All the links are below if you want to support the show, get your war criminal merch, whatever you want. And thank you so much, really. I can't believe we're at 422 on Patreon. That's absolutely amazing. I'm speechless. Thank you so much. So that's it. With that said, I wish you guys a very good night and very good evening, very good morning, wherever you are. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button, and we'll do an outgoing roll call. All right? Take care. Ma'as salame. Bye-bye.